In the world of Destiny Unchained Online, players fought to control territory in a full-dive VRMRPG. Among them stood a feared swordsman, known only as the Demon King. Sensing danger, a group of players rushed to regroup, fearing the approach of a deadly enemy. Their escape was cut short as the Demon King struck swiftly, overwhelming one of them instantly. Panic rose, yet one player charged forward, determined not to let fear dictate their defeat. Charging in, the warrior launched a fierce strike, determined to overwhelm his opponent through sheer force. However, the vampire girl evaded smoothly, slipping past his defense, and countering with a clean blow staggered by the sudden strike. The swordsman realized too late he had left himself open. Witnessing his comrade fall, the remaining player froze, struck by fear and disbelief. Alone and shaken, he considered retreat, unsure if regrouping was even possible. Now, before the lone player could escape, a dark blade pierced through him, ending his resistance. Paralyzed by fear, he recognized the presence and overwhelming force known as the top PvP player. Time shifted back to a few months earlier, when a cheerful boy named Ko greeted the day. Although warned about playing too much, Ko dismissed the concern, immersed in virtual adventures. Unbothered by the AI's nagging, Ko simply smiled, treating it as part of his routine. Confident in his academic prospects, Ko decided to spend his free time immersed in gaming. Suddenly realizing the time, he panicked. His appointment was already starting. In a rush, he blamed his distraction on the game and his habit of muting notifications. While hurrying to leave, he brushed off concern, explaining he was only helping test a new game. As the door closed, someone sighed, recognizing it wasn't leisure, it was work once again. Ku rushed out the door, smiling despite the time, still excited for what lay ahead. The city buzzed with activity as he walked toward the towering company building his destination for testing. Inside, his late arrival was noted. The receptionist, unimpressed by his VR-related excuse, apologized to his father, the game's creator, who reminded him to enjoy gaming in moderation. Despite the workload, his father smiled warmly, touched by Ko's gesture and quiet concern. Though warned about his lack of sleep, Ko remained energetic, brushing it off with a grin. With anticipation building, his father handed over the product, a game he was proud to present. The title Destiny Unchained Online gleamed on the cover, marking the launch of a new VRMRPG. Ko acknowledged the moment, realizing it felt strange to test a game his family created. Still, his excitement overflowed as he assured his father he was ready for the challenge. Eager to dive in, Ko confirmed the launch time and prepared to download the game. His father surprised him by revealing a new gaming device, built specifically for this experience. Standing before a capsule-like machine, Ko learned it was called the Cradle, powered by cutting-edge tech. While Ko was impressed, he still doubted its appearance resembled anything remotely like a game console. Despite his concern, his father reassured him. It wasn't an unfair advantage, just immersive, not overpowered. Ko examined the machine, still skeptical about its complexity and purpose within the game. His father reassured him that enjoyment was the only goal. How he played was entirely his choice. As a suggestion, he proposed Ko aim to become the strongest player, given his PvP skill. Flustered, Ko recalled his past declarations, embarrassed by memories of his overconfident gaming habits. Now inside the cradle, uncertainty crept in as he prepared to log in for real. Ko smiled brightly, assuring his father that helping with game development was something he truly enjoyed. When the topic of his absent mother surfaced, Ko responded with emotional distance, claiming it no longer mattered. Even so, he admitted he wouldn't know how to feel if she returned unexpectedly. His father gently revealed the game was created by both parents, specifically with Ku in mind. Stunned, Ku processed the revelation, surprised that even his mother had a hand in its creation. Ku was surprised when his father insisted that duo held real significance for him. With a warm smile, his father encouraged him to play from the heart and enjoy every moment. As the cradle sealed around him, Ku hesitated, but gave a small nod, ready to begin. He reflected on the challenge, wondering if he truly could become the strongest player in the world. The system activated, and Ko silently questioned what message his parents had hidden within the game. With determination in his eyes, Ko silently wished to uncover the truth behind the game. Upon logging in, he was awestruck by the towering goddess-like AI who welcomed him to Duo. She introduced herself as his guide and prompted him to begin the registration process. Ko chose his usual username, Krim, which the system accepted as his in-game identity. Moments later, the character creation sequence began, displaying a variety of potential avatars before him. Just as Kao began choosing a race, a glitch affected the character models, disrupting the selection screen. A system alert popped up, revealing an unusual DNA sequence and unlocking a new, unknown race. Shocked by the news, Kao stared as the screen began forming a mysterious figure before him. The figure took shape as a pale, white-haired girl, an avatar labeled Noble Red, a vampire progenitor. Trying to make sense of it, Ku learned the race was rare, accessible only due to his DNA. Ku learned that the Noble Red race had two variants: pure blood and half-blood vampires. Their power came with a cost: blood had to be consumed from others, or used as fuel for magic. Nervously scratching his head, Ku hesitated, revealing he was a vegetarian, and not keen on blood-sucking. The AI guide casually suggested he could simply avoid using the blood-based abilities. Despite their strength, both vampire types had clear drawbacks, making the choice a risky trade-off. Ko was stunned to learn that pure-blood vampires lost all HP in sunlight within seconds. Half-bloods fared slightly better, but even their stats dropped drastically when exposed to light. Realizing daytime gameplay would be impossible as a pure-blood, Ko decided the half-blood path was more practical. To his surprise, the AI explained he could customize his character further by adding weaknesses. Classic vampire limitations, like silver, fire, or being uninvited, granted bonus stat points when selected as drawbacks. Ko found it amusing that adding more weaknesses actually made his character stronger through bonus points. He prioritized critical damage by boosting strength and magic, aiming for a high-risk, high-reward build. Thinking strategically, he imagined a glass cannon setup perfect for PvP ambushes. After selecting multiple vulnerabilities, Ku finalized his half-blood character, questioning if the AI guide was truly reliable. Despite the immersive design, he dreaded the blood-sucking mechanic, already regretting that part of the build. Ku realized other players were already progressing and didn't want to fall behind from indecision. Though other races looked appealing, something about vampires felt strangely familiar to him. Recalling his father's advice, he focused on following his instincts rather than logic alone. However, he was surprised to learn that gender-swapping avatars was restricted within the game. With resolve, Ku decided to roleplay as a male vampire, embracing the class fully. With a confident smile, Ku declared his choice, locking in the vampire avatar as his own. The system confirmed his decision and began the transformation process within the cradle interface. As the restructure initiated, Ku's senses sharpened. He could smell with intense clarity, like a true predator. Sense of earth and flora filled his awareness, vivid and lifelike in this full-dive simulation. Looking at his new hands, Ku quietly observed the physical changes that now defined his avatar. Ku awakened in what appeared to be ancient ruins, surrounded by collapsed stone and eerie silence. He noticed something odd. His voice had changed, softer and higher than he expected. Opening his status screen, he was stunned by the reflection. It showed a girl's face and body. What he dismissed earlier as a glitch was real. He had been assigned a female avatar. Panicked, he remembered the rule: gender couldn't be changed after creation, and he was now stuck. The girl's expression twisted in panic as a sudden realization struck: something in the game had gone terribly wrong. She searched frantically for her father, shouting in confusion over her altered voice and appearance. The system's glitch had transformed her into a girl, and her father's response offered no comfort. Then came the worst news: she'd be trapped inside the game world for 3 whole months. Faced with an endless login session, she protested, knowing real-life responsibilities loomed just ahead. Frustration surged as she learned her father planned to enroll her in online school during the game. Determined to escape, she attempted to log out, only to discover the function was disabled. Her anger exploded upon realizing her father had deliberately locked her in. Though he expressed guilt, he stood firm in his decision, pleading for understanding. From outside the screen, he urged her to enjoy the experience, believing it was what she truly needed. Resigned to her fate, she accepted the tutorial, though she still wished her gender could be reverted. Grumbling at the unnecessary nickname, she half-heartedly agreed to watch the cutscene. The introduction began with tales of a powerful empire that once ruled the entire world. Despite its might, cracks slowly appeared in the empire's dominance over time. Eventually, rebellion erupted as citizens across the land rose up and civil war consumed the continent. The fall of the emperor marked the end of an age, and 30 years quietly slipped by. During that time, new nations emerged as rival factions fought for dominance over the continent. While some rose from faith or ambition, others were driven by loss, greed, or the thirst for recognition. Peace became fleeting, with war erupting and vanishing as swiftly as empires themselves. In the midst of this chaos, players from another world began to arrive, shaping a new chapter. After watching the opening, she reflected on the game's history, noting how chaotic things had become. By analyzing the guild map, she realized it was a nation-based strategy game centered around territory control. Victory in duo meant waging large-scale wars guild versus guild with dominance, determining leadership. Although skilled in PvP, group tactics were new to her. Yet the idea of leadership stirred something deeper. Resolved and motivated, she made her choice to gather allies and build a nation of her own. She stood alone in a dense forest, unsure of her next move or direction. A distant scream broke the silence, prompting her to follow the sound for clues. Navigating the terrain proved difficult, with roots and bushes slowing her progress and heightening the sense of realism. Suddenly, a message popped up. Her sprint skill had increased from running. Excited by the boost, she dashed forward, her body feeling lighter and movement more fluid. With each stride, her sprint skill improved, revealing Duo's unique system built entirely on action-based growth. Up ahead, she spotted a frightened boy cornered by a growling beast. An NPC event had just triggered. The child trembled in fear as the monster loomed dangerously close, ready to strike. Without hesitation, she lunged forward and launched a surprise attack to protect him. Her fierce glare locked with the beast's, determined to end the threat right there. After the fight, she checked on the boy, making sure he was safe and unhurt. Confused by being called sister, she paused, momentarily unsure how to respond. Flustered but playing along, she reassured him with a cheerful smile and told him to stay hidden. The beast lunged again, faster than expected, forcing her into a desperate dodge, watching from behind. The boy cried out in panic, fearing she stood no chance against it. Confident in her skill, she charged with full force, expecting a critical strike to bring victory. With precise movement, she launched herself at the beast, targeting its exposed side. To her surprise, something felt off. Her attack hadn't landed as expected. Despite a clean hit, the creature stood unfazed, its hide too tough for her weapon to penetrate. Realizing it resisted physical damage, she quickly re-evaluated her approach. While the boy echoed his warning, she switched tactics, summoning a magical blade instead of relying on physical strength. With pride in her magical affinity, she invoked a shadow light weapon, tailored to her casting power. Launching high into the air, she prepared to strike with full confidence. The attack landed cleanly, a critical hit that decapitated the monster, ending the battle instantly. Energized by the success, she cheered in triumph, savoring the thrill of a perfect one-hit kill. With the danger gone, she offered the boy a hand and asked if he was okay. He stood up in awe, praising her strength, though an awkward moment left him flustered. Embarrassed, he apologized, but she reassured him with a playful smile. They exchanged names, Krim and George, marking the start of a friendly bond. However, her slip in speech reminded her yet again. She was now living as a girl. As they walked together, George offered her a place to stay, mentioning an unused room at his home. Despite her heroic act, she insisted he had helped her more, and together they approached the city. Thinking she'd completed the tutorial near Windom, she relaxed, feeling satisfied. However, the boy corrected her. This was the town of Naval, far from Windom. Shocked, she realized the boss she defeated might not have been part of the tutorial at all. Frustrated by yet another system glitch, she yelled furiously, blaming her father for everything wrong. After hours of battling in sync, the girl advanced with precision, locked in fierce combat. Facing a beast-like opponent, her understanding of the system deepened, sharpening her reaction. She struck decisively, learning to aim for weak points, the brain, heart, and spine to down foes swiftly. With a rush skill, she activated Divine Might, dashing forward in a blur. Her blade pierced the beast's flank, toppling it in a single, calculated strike. A critical strike landed cleanly, bypassing the enemy's remaining health and triggering an instant kill. Satisfied with the outcome, the girl casually celebrated amidst the aftermath of the battle. She speculated on the broader potential of her technique, imagining its use in competitive duels. Later, a young villager praised her efforts, now able to gather materials without fear. Realizing her spawn point was incorrect, she groaned and began trekking toward the nearest town. While gathering ingredients, she accompanied George through the woods, scanning for useful materials. Combat returned quickly as the supposed tutorial revealed itself to be a real quest chain. With no other players nearby, she realized she'd unknowingly bypassed the beginner zone. Rather than dwell on it, she reframed the situation as an opportunity to gain skill points. Analyzing the quest further, she identified it as a chain mission, promising tougher challenges ahead. Suspicion stirred as she questioned whether collecting herbs alone could truly complete the quest. Something felt off. Why had George wandered so far into dangerous territory in the first place? Curious, she approached the boy, asking about his motives and the risks he faced. George explained that his family ran an apothecary and he helped gather herbs when possible. Still, she teased him for acting carefree, despite nearly dying moments earlier. George reacted with embarrassment as she playfully teased him with a nickname. She advised him to bring an adult next time, only to hear he couldn't rely on them. Grateful for her help, he shared that none of the adults, including his father, assisted with gathering. Krim began to suspect there was more to the quest than simply collecting herbs. For now, she accepted his offer to stay and wait before moving toward Windom. Their journey neared its end as the road to Naval finally came into view. However, the harsh sunlight overwhelmed Krim, draining her energy and balance. She realized her prolonged exposure in the forest had masked her sunlight sensitivity. Although the rays weren't strong enough to penalize her, the burning sensation persisted. Thankfully, George suggested they walk in the shade, offering a room to rest once they arrived. The moment they reached Naval, George was met with a furious scolding from his father. Concerned for his son's safety, the man reminded him how a single mistake could have been fatal. Only Krim's presence had kept the worst from happening, and everyone knew it. Though grateful, she humbly admitted she'd been the one relying on others. Offered a room without hesitation, she marveled at how lifelike the game's NPCs truly felt inside the apothecary. The man introduced himself as Ludgar and explained his role. Krim reintroduced herself, slipping into masculine speech that confused the others. Panic surged as she debated whether to explain her real identity or maintain the role. Deciding to brush it off, she laughed and dismissed the awkward moment. Ludgar praised her beauty, while George grumbled under his breath, still flustered by it all. Krim was caught off guard when called beautiful, unsure how to react. Still unfamiliar with her own face, she hesitated, wondering if it truly looked cute. She reflected on how a bug had switched her gender, unlike other games with gender-locked visuals. After feeling her face, she confirmed it was indeed soft and feminine. Meanwhile, George's father teased his son, stirring even more embarrassment in the flustered boy. Flustered from the teasing, George excused himself, claiming he needed to clean the spare room. With the boy gone, Ludgar asked to speak privately with Krim about something important. He revealed his daughter's illness, one that local medicine had long failed to cure. Driven by desperation, George often ventured into the forest alone, searching for rare herbs. Krim finally understood the real reason behind his reckless determination. Before leaving, Ludgar asked Krim to keep an eye on George, worried about his impulsiveness. Alone with her thoughts, Krim reflected on the family's struggles and planned to explore the town. She paused, remembering she had promised to help clean, and headed toward the spare room. There she overheard George gently scolding his sister for trying to get out of bed. Promising recovery, he reassured her with quiet determination to gather medicine one piece at a time. Krim watched silently, moved by the frailty of George's sister and the boy's quiet worry. George confirmed what she'd learned, explaining that Junah had been this ill for as long as he could remember. He knew time was slipping away. Her condition worsened with each passing day. Though he respected Krim, he refused to let anyone stop his search for ingredients. Even if it meant defying his father, George's resolve wouldn't waver. Krim acknowledged George's determination and offered to help him gather every ingredient needed together. Morning light stirred Krim from sleep as the fourth day of her confinement in the virtual world began. Outside, George's cheerful call greeted her. He was already brimming with energy, ready to search for ingredients. Stretching by the door, she caught George musing aloud about her vampire traits. Without hesitation, he offered a robe to shield her from the sun, thoughtful and prepared. Their routine was cut short when a monster appeared. Krim stepped forward to defend, ordering George to retreat. Krim quickly assessed the enemy, some kind of reptilian monster, and noted the terrain's danger near the river. Without warning, the creature lunged. She dodged but was nearly caught off guard by its incredible speed. Landing atop its back, she plunged her weapon into its thick hide, struggling to stay balanced. A powerful tail swipe followed, but Krim leapt clear, reading the attack easily. From above, she descended sharply, delivering a clean, decisive blow to the monster's skull. After defeating the creature, Krim reflected with satisfaction and discovered monster drop items in the water. She returned to George, reporting the new materials. He quickly checked their utility, with growing excitement. Noticing her stats, Krim observed her skill proficiency had risen more than expected. She reviewed the list of newly unlocked abilities, selecting ones with practical uses in combat. Settling on Dark Bullet and Blaze Blood, She prepared for the next challenge with confidence. Krim examined a potent magic called Noble Red, which offered a temporary power boost at great risk. Despite its strength, she deemed it too dangerous, given the vulnerability it caused after use. Later she and George reflected on the slow progress of their quest, now 4 days in. Jokingly, Krim imagined calling out for party members, though she hadn't met any other players yet. She realized this was unusual, especially since top players typically cleared early zones within days. As Krim surveyed the vast forest below, she began to realize just how immense the world of duo truly was. George's question broke her thoughts, and she brushed it off with a smile, hiding her awe. With only one material left to find, they decided to head back as dark clouds gathered overhead. Back home, George confirmed Junah's health had worsened, her strength fading. They urgently reported the news just one ingredient stood between Junah and her medicine. Krim resolved to retrieve the final ingredient immediately, determined not to waste any more time. George revealed he might know where it was, but their father objected. He feared their destination. The Black Forest came up, a place tied to a powerful threat known to all. At its heart lurked a monstrous bear, an apex predator few dared approach. Its savage nature had already claimed lives, making the journey perilous for even the bold. Their father warned that the bear in the Black Forest was no ordinary beast, it was a disaster-level threat. Krim realized it wasn't just a monster, but a raid boss meant for full parties. Even she wasn't confident facing it alone, the risk was far too high. George, however, believed in her strength and urged her on with hopeful words. But Krim, with a troubled gaze, admitted she didn't think she could win. George lowered his head, apologizing for hoping too much. Krim gently assured him it was all right. Alone in her room, she worried about the future. No other players had arrived, and forming a party seemed impossible. Suddenly, she overheard a heated argument through the walls, something about the forest. Peering outside, Krim noticed a restless crowd gathering, their voices tense and urgent. Ludgar addressed her with concern. The village men were angry someone had entered the forest alone. The villagers discovered missing tools. George had likely gone to collect the final medicine ingredient alone. Realization struck Krim. He had entered the Black Forest, the most dangerous place they feared, determined to stop him. She rushed to leave, but someone grabbed her arm to halt her. Ludgar pleaded with her not to go. The monster had claimed too many lives already. Thou warned. Krim insisted she couldn't wait. George's life might depend on her speed. Ludgar tightened his grip but softened his tone. Understanding Krim's urgency, he released her, choosing not to stop her. Krim reflected on George's trust and their shared journey. A memory of their promise surfaced. They would complete the quest together. Blaming herself for pushing the quest forward, she felt responsible for what had happened. With newfound determination, Krim turned to leave. She had made this choice and would see it through. Krim raced through the forest, determined to retrieve the last ingredient hidden in a deep cave. Guided by the event marker on her map, she pressed forward without hesitation. Upon reaching a waterfall, she spotted the cave. George had to be nearby. Meanwhile, a system overview explained how NPCs, like George, mimicked human behavior using advanced AI. The world reacted dynamically, generating quests from environmental cues and surrounding NPCs like George's family. As the world evolved, more NPCs and quests emerged in response to player actions. These NPCs felt emotions, pain, and could even die just like real people. Krim acknowledged the system's logic, but George wasn't just an NPC to her. She remembered his smile and their promise to finish the quest together, no matter what. With her heart pounding, she entered the cave and shouted his name, hoping she wasn't too late. Krim leapt down into a massive chamber, instantly recognizing it the boss arena. Spotting George huddled near a crystal outcrop, she rushed forward, heart pounding. Relieved to find him alive, she urged him to flee, but his warning came too late. A strange calm settled over the cave just before the ground trembled beneath her feet. From the shadows emerged a colossal beast, fangs bared, an ice-armored predator ready to strike. The system confirmed the boss encounter. Krim readied herself, knowing escape was no longer an option. She charged the towering beast, fully aware this fight exceeded her current level's design. A towering beast-like monster loomed before the party, its presence shaking the frozen battlefield. One of the adventurers stared in disbelief, recognizing it was far more than just a bear. It was something far worse. The creature roared and charged, its massive form descending like a shadow over their leader. With explosive speed, the beast lunged, narrowly missing its target as the others scrambled to dodge. Krim realized it wasn't just fast. Time itself seemed to distort with each of its movements. She tried to maneuver around the beast, but its massive strides covered too much ground. Its sheer size disrupted her sense of distance, making it hard to plan her next move. Forced into action, she leapt into the air as the monster charged forward beneath her. Krim activated her skill and dashed across the creature's back, weapon drawn for a precise strike. Her blade hit, but the monster's hide was too tough. The weapon snapped without piercing through. Striking the monster's neck proved useless. It was shielded by thick scales, a defense clearly meant to prevent instant defeats. Recognizing the high durability of her enemy, she calmly prepared to activate an alternative skill. She unleashed a dark projectile, one that ignored defense and dealt fixed damage, regardless of resistance. The spell connected, but the impact was minimal, barely nudging the creature's health bar. Worse still, hidden beneath the surface bar were 4 more HP gauges, revealing the fight had barely begun. Realizing brute force wouldn't work, she began charging a different spell with a clever plan in mind. At the right moment, she cast a trap spell beneath the beast, causing it to stumble and lose balance. With its defenses briefly open, she launched herself high into the air to seize the chance. As she fell, she prepared a powerful downward strike using her full weight and speed. She screamed with resolve, aiming to pierce the scales with one decisive blow. The force of the impact echoed as she drove her blade down with everything she had. A harsh snap followed. The weapon shattered again, unable to withstand the monster's defenses. She weighed her options, knowing her stock of shadow weapons was limited and fragile. Despite multiple attacks, the beast's health bar barely moved, proving a drawn-out fight was impossible. Determined, she realized her only path forward was a precise, fatal strike that bypassed endurance. With fierce determination, she pointed her blade toward the monster's neck, declaring her intent to sever it completely. But before she could move, the beast let out a roar and lunged at her with startling speed. As the ground cracked beneath them, she scrambled to dodge, narrowly avoiding its crushing jaws. The monster slammed the earth with full force, sending debris flying into the air. Amid the chaos, she shielded herself, unable to counter as the relentless rampage continued. She lost her footing as the ground crumbled beneath her, plunging unexpectedly mid-battle. In a flash, she was thrown back, barely avoiding a devastating strike that grazed her side. Blood trickled down her arm. Just one touch had disabled it, rendering her unable to fight properly. From afar, George watched helplessly, realizing she was beginning to lose control. At this rate, she wouldn't survive. The enemy's overwhelming power left her cornered and vulnerable. Instead of panicking, Krim kept moving, relying on her vampire healing to recover her disabled arm. Out of nowhere, a small object collided with the monster's face, momentarily disrupting its advance. To her surprise, the projectile turned out to be a simple stone flying through the air. From a distance, George had stepped forward, shouting boldly to divert the beast's attention. Realization struck Krim's heart dropped as she watched the monster redirect its rage toward him. Krim's eyes widened as she noticed the shadow weapon had pierced through this time. It actually stuck. Just ahead, George panicked, but still managed to shout for someone to deliver the medicine ingredients. Without thinking, Krim rushed forward and shoved him aside as the monster's strike descended. She smiled with resolve, bracing for the impact in his place. In the distance, George called her name, watching helplessly as she took the hit. Lying on the ground, Krim reflected on her failure, realizing she had been too confident to face the boss alone. Her voice softened as she admitted her weakness, blaming herself for the situation. Tears filled George's eyes as he apologized, overwhelmed by guilt and emotion. Memories of the village and its people echoed through his mind as he whispered his regret. But Krim clenched her fist. She still had a chance. One final spell fueled by Noble Red's magic. Activating her strongest magic, Krim prepared a risky power surge, one that would leave her drastically weakened in 30 seconds. Despite the odds, she smiled with conviction, assuring George that she hadn't given up. A fierce impact followed as she struck the ground near the beast's neck, targeting the damage she'd already inflicted. With each blow, she worked to strip away its hardened scales. The beast roared in agony, showing her attacks were finally reaching deep. Krim's arm ignited with power as her body began to change. Her hair shifted, signaling a transformation triggered by desperation. Unleashing her ultimate magic, she activated Blaze Blood, ready to finish the fight. In the vast world of Destiny Unchained Online, the rarest race was known as Blaze Blood, a class imbued with volatile power and unique risk. Her blood ignited, pushing her physical limits far beyond normal for a brief, decisive moment. With time draining and her body weakening, she readied herself to strike before collapse. She lunged toward the beast, determined to finish the battle. Her enhanced speed and power pierced its defenses, landing a critical blow. Krim analyzed the beast's movements, syncing her timing to predict its attacks and gain an edge. She charged forward, targeting the creature's vulnerable neck with persistent, focused strikes. Each blow chipped away at its defenses, and even observers were stunned by her precision. Despite the danger, she darted in close, risking everything to maintain pressure. With strength waning, she realized decisive action was needed before her limits broke. Krim steadied herself, bracing for a final strike with every ounce of strength she had left. She launched into the sky, channeling all her remaining energy into a single full-force dive. The impact landed with precision, her claw aimed directly at the creature's throat. Though the scales cracked under the force, the beast endured, still moving. With only seconds remaining, Krim realized the fight wasn't over yet. Krim clung to the monster, knowing this final clash would determine the outcome. With seconds slipping away, she delivered strike after strike, each one more desperate than the last. As the timer hit 0, her final blow shattered the beast, ending the battle in a burst of light. Later, in peaceful quiet, her body stirred in bed, awakening slowly. She remembered the name, George. Krim awoke to a startling discovery: her body had shrunk, confused and disoriented. She sat up in bed, overwhelmed by her childlike form. Trying to maintain composure, she confirmed her identity with Ludgar, who questioned the situation gently. George explained that Krim had transformed right after the boss was defeated, shocking everyone present. Ludgar and his team had rescued them both, and escorted them safely back. Now reunited, they sat together, trying to unravel the mystery behind Krim's unexpected change, tracing it back to the activation of Blaze Blood and its overwhelming toll on her body. She visualized the cost, the draining of blood and energy, leaving her weakened and small, like fuel completely spent. Opening up at last, Krim revealed her true nature: a noble red, a vampire, and by extension, a demon. Worried about rejection, she offered to leave, assuming her nature would disgust them. Instead, George stood firm, declaring that her courage mattered more than what she was. Krim listened quietly as Ludgar echoed George's words, reaffirming that her nature didn't change how they saw her. With a warm smile, he told her she was like family, someone who had saved lives and brought healing. Their gratitude poured out freely, and Krim smiled in return, touched by their acceptance. To restore her body, a special remedy was prepared blood. Despite hesitation, she drank it, accepting what she was. As Krim stared into the cup, a strange hunger stirred within her, surprising even herself. She confessed hesitantly blood wasn't her thing. In fact, she was a vegetarian. George encouraged her to press on, reminding her she couldn't stay in that weakened form forever. Summoning her resolve, Krim shut her eyes and drank with determination. Suddenly, a vivid memory surfaced, one tied to fear, urgency, and flashing lights. A memory flashed back, chaos erupting as a boy named Ku bit a classmate, blood trickling from the wound. The surrounding students reacted with shock, shouting in disbelief as Ko trembled, overwhelmed by guilt. Despite the panic, the girl tried to downplay the injury, insisting it was minor. With a soft smile, she reassured him, masking her pain behind calm words. Krim awakened from the memory, shaken, questioning why she'd done the same. George knocked gently, relieved when Krim welcomed him inside with a calm voice. She apologized for earlier, assuring him she felt much better and had returned to her normal self. Though the taste of blood unsettled her, she tried to brush it off, not wanting others to worry. A gift was offered, unique equipment tied to the Empire's past, instantly lifting her spirits. With renewed energy, Krim recalled her goal: reaching Windom and starting her true journey. Ludgar suggested Krim visit a trade city, places where adventurers gathered and search for clues about Windom. With few options, she made her way to the plaza, prepared to use the transport system. In a flash of light, she arrived at her destination, an immense floating fortress called Valhalla. Surrounded by bustling players and towering structures, Krim marveled at the sight of the floating city. Far away, in the real world, a hospital quietly accepted a new patient, transfer the cradle. In a quiet lab, researchers exchanged brief thanks before one stepped away with intent. He approached a sealed capsule, addressing the person inside, his long unseen spouse, with familiarity and sorrow. Another figure appeared, noting their child had already aligned with one side of the conflict. Inside a pod, a boy floated silently. One man believed the choice hadn't been conscious. Watching from the shadows, a woman whispered softly, urging her daughter to awaken soon. Krim arrived at the floating city of Valhalla, surprised by the number of players gathered. She was impressed by its design and regretted not visiting earlier. Inside, she spotted a massive structure. Two fighters were battling with low HP, drawing her attention. Realizing it was a PvP arena, Krim became excited and changed her plans immediately. She explored the city, observing raiders preparing for the next challenge. Surrounded by noisy chatter, Krim began thinking about gear, scrolls, and future weapons. Krim smiled to herself, embracing the idea that detours made the game more exciting. Curious about her surroundings, she chose to explore and was immediately drawn to someone with striking white hair. As she walked, a crowd quickly gathered, showering her with attention and compliments. Puzzled by the reaction, she realized she had yet to see her own reflection in the game. Finally finding a mirror, Krim gasped her avatar was far more beautiful than she expected. Seeing her reflection, Krim was startled by how striking her avatar looked. Her hair color stood out, drawing compliments from others. Although flattered, the attention made her uncomfortable. Being seen as pretty clashed with her identity. She quietly wondered whose face had been used to generate her character. While snacking at a nearby cafe, she joked to herself about being born as a girl. Any awkward thoughts faded as she delighted in enjoying junk food again. A man offered Krim plain food, surprised she couldn't tolerate meat. In the lively cafeteria, Krim enjoyed her fries freely. The ability to eat without gaining weight made the game especially popular among female players. At another table, an elf girl explained her rare race, classified as a noble elf. Despite the title, her racial trait increased pain sensitivity, frustrating her. Nearby, a goblin and an orc lamented their poor racial perks, one too specific. The goblin and orc defended their race choices, insisting rarity alone made them worth picking, despite the drawbacks. Krim observed them silently, finding their choices bizarre but oddly fitting. She reflected on how little was known about rare races, unlike the balanced basics that relied on default abilities. While thinking, someone called out to her, catching her attention. A new player praised her robe, but also noticed her default gear, suspecting she was a newbie. A cheerful player, named Elmir, introduced himself, offering to guide Krim through the basics, his tone overly friendly. Politely declining, Krim insisted she preferred learning things on her own, already thinking of ways to distance herself. Despite her refusal, Elmir persisted, complimenting her looks, causing Krim to leave abruptly. As she walked away, she noticed silver rings on his hand, triggering a sense of alarm. Panicked, she backed off and apologized, but the tension between them quickly escalated. Elmir suddenly blurted out Krim's race, identifying her as a vampire in public. The crowd murmured in surprise, and Krim panicked as her rare status was exposed without consent. He pointed out her fangs and eyes, continuing to draw attention to her features. Then came a guild invite, making it clear he was targeting rare races. Krim, unimpressed, gave a deadpan fake name and shut down his nosy questions. She masked her irritation as Elmir reacted to her fake name with delight. Before she could, he led her to an arena, eager to impress. He challenged her to a PvP match, suggesting he'd take it easy. With a confident grin, Krim offered a deal she'd join his guild if he could defeat her. However, she added a twist: if he lost, he'd stop recruiting her completely. Krim stepped into the arena as Elmir accepted the challenge, marking the start of their duel. Krim steps into the arena, facing a confident knight who offers a duel in exchange for guild membership. After 5 days of monotonous grinding, she finally gets a real challenge. She finds it odd that her first opponent is a flamboyant player, more focused on style than skill. Analyzing his gear, she guesses he's a balanced build, a royal knight with human stats. With a fierce gaze, Krim readies herself, determined not to lose. The battle begins, and though Krim is new to PvP, her resolve remains firm. Her opponent lunges in with confidence, but Krim meets him head-on, unfazed. She strikes fast and clean, leaving him stunned by her speed and precision. A fierce blow lands, the knight stumbles, clearly not expecting such force. While he scrambles to recover, Krim calmly considers her options to win. Krim aims directly for the knight's weak point, flashing a confident expression as she strikes near his neck. He retreats, impressed but wary, knowing the fight isn't finished yet. Their weapons clash furiously, and he realizes she's relentlessly aiming for a swift, decisive blow. She charges in low, catching him off guard with a sudden dash. Her next move mirrors a top-tier strategy she memorized from elite gameplay guides. The knight tries to trap Krim mid-air with a shield skill, aiming to end it. But she twists mid-air, catching him by surprise and breaking through his guard. Krim lands a clean strike from above, bringing his health to 0 in one decisive blow. With a satisfied smile, she reflects on how enjoyable the duel was. He walks off victorious, leaving behind a stunned but impressed opponent. Standing alone, Krim reflects on the battle, acknowledging her opponent's strength with quiet respect. Elmir approaches her, praising the fight despite his loss, finding the experience refreshing. Krim admits she underestimated him, having assumed he wasn't serious about the game at first. Smiling sincerely, Elmir thanks her, saying the match helped him recognize his own purpose. With parting words, they go their separate ways, each changed in subtle but lasting ways. As they part ways, Krim finally corrects him. Her name isn't Potato, it's Krim. Elmir chuckles, amused, then pauses in confusion, realizing something odd he noticed earlier. Back in town, Krim strolls through the crowd, satisfied. PvP had been far more thrilling than monster hunting. She reflects on her time in the village, and is relieved to find her skills still sharp. A friend rushes in with admiration, hugging Krim tightly after witnessing her entire battle. Krim receives a barrage of compliments about her appearance, as her friends gush over her transformation into a girl. Suddenly, she falters. Something seems off, prompting concern from everyone around her. Amid the chaos, she discovers that both of her friends have also joined the game world. They're surprised. Krim never responded to their messages, realizing she had skipped the tutorial entirely. One of the players is revealed to be Furia Subaru, her competitive childhood friend, now playing as Frey. Krim introduces another familiar face, Subaru's twin sister, Hijiri, now in-game as Freya. The group discusses forming a party, and Krim hesitates after noticing something unsettling: a scar that shouldn't exist in a game avatar. Subaru confidently claims that pairing up with Hijiri would make them unbeatable. Forgetting Krim entirely, their light-hearted bickering over game roles erupts while Krim watches, slightly exasperated. A flashback explains everything. Krim had been accidentally spawned in the wrong region, isolated from other players. The group discusses how to regroup in Naval, but they're unsure of each other's exact location. Suddenly, a stranger offers to guide them, though he clearly expects something in return. Krim returned to Naval exhausted, unsure whether her friends would arrive safely. The man who offered to help seemed unreliable. While waiting, she focused on improving her axe skills and clearing collection quests. Unexpectedly, she discovered a new shadow weapon, catching her off guard. To her relief, Ryunosuke, Frey, and Freya finally appeared, collapsing from the journey. He formally offered to escort the others to Naval without delay. Frey and Freya panicked upon learning none of them had actually reached Naval before. Ryunosuke admitted he never unlocked it as a teleport point due to exhaustion during his last attempt. Still, he promised to get it right this time, but only if they agreed to his condition. The request was vague, only asking for a bit of assistance on a minor matter. After numerous failures, the group finally arrived, battered, but together again. Ryunosuke confessed the journey had been far easier when he traveled alone, expecting stronger support this time. Despite knowing the party lacked a tank, he hadn't anticipated such chaos, especially from Freya. The group repeatedly called for Krim, panicking as they failed to handle threats on their own. Krim observed their ordeal, teasing Ryunosuke for hiding behind stealth instead of helping. Before she could respond, someone pointed out her intimidating grip on the axe. The group learned about Krim's housing achievement after many quests earned her a rundown cabin. Despite the poor condition, Krim had fun fixing it up and became absorbed in the work. Back at the cabin, a cheerful child named Junah welcomed Krim home with a running hug. Krim noticed Junah's energy had returned, though she gently reminded her to take it easy. Curious, her friends asked about the mysterious child now clinging happily to Krim. Junah cheerfully greeted everyone, calling them by name and expressing joy at meeting Freya and the others. As they walked, Ryunosuke noted how rare it was to see such a close bond between a player and an NPC. Krim, hoping to join the upcoming barbecue, quickly presented a guinea fowl as a gift offering. The delicious meal that followed amazed everyone, especially the yakitori, grilled to perfection. While enjoying beer and praise, the men celebrated Krim's thoughtful contribution with loud, satisfied laughter. Krim was surprised to learn alcohol had no real effect in-game, making hangovers a thing of the past. While the adults chatted, Junah offered grilled vegetables to Krim, who gladly accepted the plate. Despite the meal's variety, Krim's inability to eat meat was met with sympathy and laughter. Taking a serious turn, she asked Ryunosuke to reveal the condition he mentioned earlier. With a smile, he declared his request an assault on the Kaime Pass. Ryunosuke revealed that Kaime Pass was likely a hidden area, with rare items for those who conquered it first. He admitted needing help, proposing to split the loot in exchange for their support. The area was dangerous, overrun by an aggressive ogre tribe that attacked on sight. Arriving at Valhalla, he emphasized the need for strong allies to succeed. Freya and Frey questioned the cost, while Krim considered forming a guild. Krim agreed to the plan, intrigued by the challenge and eager to uphold their deal. Ryunosuke explained the destination, a canyon hidden past the Black Forest, not far from their current location. They reached a narrow crevice in the cliffs, marking the path toward the pass ahead. Crouching behind cover, the group spotted the ogre village just below. As tension rose, Ryunosuke declared Krim would lead the infiltration alone. Krim stood before the worn bridge marking the entrance to Kaime Pass, a place wrapped in danger and mystery. She wasn't alone for long. Others emerged from hiding, acknowledging her courage for entering ahead, wishing her luck. They sent Krim ahead. Though hesitant, she pressed on, blade in hand. Suddenly the cliffside shattered. A hidden enemy launched a surprise strike. Krim barely reacted in time. Surrounded by towering beastmen warriors, Krim found herself caught in a deadly ambush. Overwhelmed by sheer numbers, Krim began to question if she could hold out. The enemies were relentless. Without warning, a powerful slash ripped through the battlefield. A mysterious warrior had arrived. Moving too fast to track, the newcomer's strike stunned even the enemy. She was not just strong, she was precise. The woman revealed herself as a fellow demon, apologizing for her earlier misjudgment. Introducing herself as Swordmaster Ma-Tou, she welcomed Krim and her allies without hostility. Krim realized the game's mechanics favored racial dynamics. Bringing a demon allowed smoother relations with the ogres. Curious about Ma-Tou's title, the group learned she was seen as a swordmaster, though she claimed to be a mere blacksmith. Teasing followed as Ma-Tou jokingly guessed Krim's age, mistaking her petite frame for a child's. An elder demon presented a grotesque feast, insisting it would aid strength. Ma-Tou's tone turned grave, justifying harshness when under attack. Labeled a discount Oni, the vampire girl faced teasing for her lack of blood-sucking skill. Arriving at a massive cliffside village, she and her party were welcomed and offered rest in a tea house. A towering warrior declared his victory, dismissing opponents as weak appetizers. Challenges were shouted as Oni clashed to prove strength, their duels fierce and relentless. Drinking, sparring, and repeating, it was training born from chaos and stamina, not simple hostility. A challenge was issued: defeat 3 Oni and earn a reward. Failure meant exile for the weak. Before anyone could react, one member of the group had already vanished. Krim stepped up to face an opponent, asking to join the trial despite not resembling an Oni. With fierce energy, she dove into action, surprising everyone by starting the quest without hesitation. A powerful strike cleared the air. She vanished again. The Oni was left stunned, muttering in awe from above. A strike was unleashed. Dark energy infused the weapon as it descended. A massive axe materialized mid-air and crashed down, clashing against the Oni's blade. In a flash, her opponent dropped. Spectators watched in awe as the battle ended instantly. Relaxed and confident, she acknowledged the outcome. Winning through force felt strangely efficient. Roars echoed. Another Oni, furious over his brother's defeat, charged in without hesitation. A brutal swing came down with fury, but a quick sidestep broke the rhythm of the attack. Shock followed as the weapon failed to land. Momentum disrupted and balance thrown off. Blades clashed, and despite the stumble, both fighters narrowly avoided disaster. Cheers erupted while Krim launched a fierce counter, her allies already confident in the outcome. Smiling with satisfaction, she noted the axe's power and flaws. Fighting one-on-one felt manageable again. Ma-Tou stepped forward with a smile, lifting her weapon and expressing her intent to join the fight. Recognition hit immediately. Krim realized Ma-Tou was the final opponent in the challenge. Krim stepped into the arena, facing a powerful horned opponent. The crowd cheered, sensing the tension of the final match. With calm determination, Krim signaled her readiness. She aimed to enjoy the fight, not end it too quickly. The clash began. Krim struggled to match her enemy's overwhelming speed and strength. Realizing she couldn't keep up, Krim activated new blood magic slave chain to change the tide. Chain struck, binding her foe. Krim used the opening to prepare her next move. Krim launched a fierce counterattack, her chain digging into the ground as her opponent took a glancing hit. Despite the damage, Krim kept her focus, choosing to wear down the enemy's health, little by little. Meanwhile, spectators noticed a strange disruption. Someone unexpected seemed to have taken the opponent's place. Realization struck as they pieced together the switch. Understanding Krim's true opponent had changed. Acknowledging her skill, the horned warrior smiled, impressed by Krim's strength and adaptability. Krim realized her opponent had been aware of her weaknesses all along. Despite appearing lenient, gripping her weapon tighter, she vowed to fight as herself, no longer holding back. Her foe responded by unleashing a powerful stance, preparing a technique called Secret Sword Kokono, reacted swiftly, intercepting the sudden attack with unexpected precision. Thanks to earlier observation, she recognized the move and blocked it just in time. The enemy unleashed a barrage of slashes, surrounding Krim with synchronized illusions, forced onto the defensive. She realized blocking wasn't the true issue. Clutching her weapon tighter, Krim sensed something deeper, hidden in the technique. Her axe cracked as she braced against the flurry, an unrelenting chain of 9 rapid strikes. As she backed off instinctively, her opponent shifted into an EII stance, ready to strike again. Krim unleashed her spell mid-swing, but her opponent's blade still landed a devastating blow. Though her strike was aimed for the neck, Krim narrowly avoided the fatal hit rooted by the ground itself. Amused, the horned warrior praised her, while the spectators panicked over Krim's wounded arm. Fighting with one arm, Krim knew brute strength wouldn't win. Strategy had to replace force. She extended her hand and cast Slave Chain, aiming to turn the tide once more. Chains launched toward the warrior, but she remained unfazed, calmly assessing Krim's direct approach. Surrounded by a web of magic chains, Krim focused her energy, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Chains crisscrossed the arena, catching Krim's opponent by surprise. The setup was unconventional, not how the technique was originally intended. Curious about her new blood magic, Krim decided to test Slave Chain on a nearby creature. Though she launched the attack confidently, the bird managed to dodge it with ease. Later, while walking, she unexpectedly tripped on a hidden chain. Confused and irritated, she wondered who had placed it there. Grasping the embedded chain, Krim realized the spell remained active even as the environment shifted, drained and unsteady. She noted the risk. Without proper blood, the magic left her vulnerable. The enemy analyzed the situation, noting the chains that restricted movement. Despite the hindrance, they began planning a countermeasure. With a burst of speed, the foe charged forward, tearing through the air and ignoring the restraints. Observers watched the battle unfold with growing concern. Realizing Krim might not evade in time, their expressions shifted to panic. Krim swiftly dodged, swinging through the web of chains like a dancer in midair. She taunted her opponent, luring them into motion. As the enemy responded, Krim moved unpredictably, weaving through the chains. Their duel escalated into a deadly game of agility and timing. Spectators observed in awe as Krim evaded each strike with precision. Her agility impressed even the most skeptical onlookers. In the heat of combat, she knew a single mistake meant defeat. The next barrage approached, and her focus sharpened. Though the opponent's ability was strong, Krim noticed flaws. The chains were still functioning, giving her room to strategize and retaliate. Her adversary, however, declared the duel near its end. Despite the chain's interference, they prepared to strike decisively. But Krim acted first, slashing through the bindings. The field opened, and her opponent reeled as their control shattered. Krim unleashed her chain magic once more, hoping to catch her foe off guard. But her opponent smirked, dismissing it as too late to matter. Refusing to back down, Krim invoked a heavy weapon forged from shadows. Even in defeat, her spirit stayed unbroken. The enemy admired her tenacity before executing a powerful finishing technique. With confidence, she turned away, declaring the fight over. Doubt soon crept in. Something felt off. Krim had vanished, and the result wasn't certain. Amid the dust and scattered armor, Krim's body was nowhere to be found. Shock filled the enemy's eyes as they realized Krim had survived and transformed once more, now clad in powerful armor. Krim stood tall. She revealed that this desperate form came only when her blood reserves were nearly empty. Despite lacking combat abilities in this state, she cleverly used her opponent's assumptions against them. The heavy weapon, though unwieldy, had its purpose. In a flash of movement and force, Krim launched a final attack. Her strike landed true, claiming her third victory. After the dust settled, a friend embraced her, teasing her shrunken size with affection. Krim's opponent acknowledged defeat with a smirk, surprised by the trick that had secured the win. It wasn't the Krim they remembered, but it was effective. A system prompt triggered, and light swirled around Krim. She reached forward as her friends cheered. Her reward was waiting. Moments later, a new power awakened. Krim had acquired katana skills, a rare and coveted upgrade. Her companions gathered around, impressed. Knowledge of this technique was scarce. Many failed to unlock it, but Krim had succeeded. Despite the trial's extreme difficulty, the reward stayed the same. The real prize was proving it could be done. Ma-Tou, still smiling, despite the loss, praised Krim's win, especially impressive given her outdated equipment. Krim admitted that better gear would have made the fight easier. She reflected on how even her robe was starter level, Thinking about explaining her transformation, she hesitated. Mentioning the blood-sucking mechanic might stir painful memories for Ma-Tou. Eventually, her body returned to normal. It simply took time, like slowly recovering mana. With the battle over, everyone prepared to move on. Krim thanked her opponent, and the group set their sights on Windom, ready for the next adventure. The group arrived at their next destination, a vast desert, where sharp rock formations pierced the dunes, and something large stirred beneath the sand. Krim and her companion froze in shock, realizing they weren't alone. The scorching desert pushed Krim to her limit. Choosing a vampire class had seemed exciting until the sun's relentless heat drained her strength with every step. Her teammates exchanged glances, realizing the game's extreme realism wasn't just physical. Even her mental endurance was faltering under the strain. Without waiting, Freya hoisted Krim onto her back. Refusing help from others, she pressed on with determination, despite the rising temperature. Memories of Krim's earlier combat prowess lingered. Her agility and execution had exceeded expectations, leaving her allies quietly impressed. One companion recalled a VR title master of swordsman, hinting at Krim's background. Her refined skills suddenly made much more sense. Designed by Krim's father, it functioned more like a punishing training simulator than entertainment, demanding perfection and offering little mercy. Left alone often, Krim spent her time immersed in it, forming a bond with the harsh world her father built. Despite her efforts over the years, she had never managed to defeat the boss that towered before her. In the past, VR-based training was looked down on, but over time the stigma faded, and games like these found their place in advanced learning programs. Among friends, Krim always learned the slowest, yet none of them could conquer that impossible game, not even Freya, who gave up after failing miserably. Though unsure of her strength, she believed she could finally support the team in a real fight. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath them. The tremor was familiar, ominous, and growing, reminding Krim of a past encounter she hadn't forgotten. A monstrous creature burst from the sand, towering and violent. Its emergence shattered the calm, forcing everyone to brace for a desperate confrontation. The team's confidence wavered. Overwhelmed by the grotesque form before them, panic set in as the situation spiraled out of control, refusing to back down. One teammate stepped forward, determined to defend Krim. She found her resolve, promising herself she'd stand strong when it mattered. As panic set in, the group dashed toward a distant rocky crevice. Doubt crept into Freya's voice, unsure if she could make it despite her earlier resolve. Overwhelmed by fear, she faltered and apologized, believing escape was impossible. In the midst of chaos, a narrow escape saved them both. Freya, cradled safely in Krim's arms, realized they had narrowly avoided death. A massive sandworm now cast a vast shadow. For once, Krim stood unharmed beneath it finally, protected by shade strong enough to shield a vampire. Even with safety secured, Krim's strength failed her. Trying to rise, she stumbled, unable to move under the sun's lingering pressure. A massive impact shook the desert once again. As Krim was thrown aside by the force, her allies discussed regrouping at the nearby respawn point. Eventually, the team arrived at a nighttime oasis town, an inn nestled between cliffs. Freya, trailing behind, hid her disappointment. Though she had tried, doubt lingered. She still felt like she hadn't truly contributed. Later, at the inn, warmth and rest finally returned to their bodies. Krim, collapsed on the bed, slowly felt her strength return. As the group began logging out, they exchanged quiet farewells. The day had been grueling, but they had made it through together. He reminded the others to rest. With a wave and brief thanks, the group began winding down after the day's trials. Left alone, the remaining three shifted focus to planning. With fewer members, training strategies for the upcoming challenges needed discussion. Freya proudly declared her lineage. She wasn't just an elf, but a rare high elf, a unique race known for magical prowess. They discussed their advantages: high magic power, extended MP, and long ears, balanced against poor physical defense. Each trait mattered for future roles. Although less confident, Freya revealed her decision. While her companions aimed to be powerful mages, she aspired to support them as a healer. Freya nervously suggested a hybrid role, one who could heal but also endure. Though uncertain, she hoped her idea made sense. Her friends responded with support. A durable healer sounded practical, even necessary for their growing team dynamics. Encouraged, she smiled. Following her own vision for a character build, she realized, would make the experience more enjoyable. Excitement grew. Plans for future skills were already forming, and her commitment to supporting the team felt stronger than ever. The group finally reached Windom, the starting city. Though it marked a beginning for many, for them, it was simply the next step forward. The group prepared to form a guild. But there was still one thing left for Freya to experience before that could happen. Freya decided to explore the town, unaware that a mandatory tutorial sequence had just been triggered by her entry into the city. While her friends went shopping, Freya realized too late she was locked into the system's long tutorial. As scripted NPCs pleaded for help, the others quietly chuckled, knowing how long it would take to finish. Krim emerged from the tutorial into a lively city, the virtual sky above filled with clouds. The chatter of players filled the air, congratulating her on completing the first phase of her journey. Reflecting on the experience, she realized she had missed some key battle mechanics while dozing off. Outside the square, her companions regrouped. One had gathered gear, another was building a guide on katana skills, eager to profit from it. As they talked, one of their team prepared to leave, weighed down by other obligations. He gave a brief farewell, expressing gratitude for their short time together, and walked off with a smile. Krim quietly watched the man leave, holding back the ache of parting. Though he had only been a temporary guide, she felt his absence strongly. A moment later, her focus shifted. With a spark of motivation, she reminded the group of their goal to establish a guild and raised her hand high to rally them forward. Thanks to rewards from their last mission, the group believed they had enough to proceed. Optimism filled the air. However, their first attempt failed. Krim collapsed onto the table, defeated and frustrated, gathered under the terrace. They reviewed the situation. Requirements were stricter than expected, more people and more money than they had prepared for. As the group prepared to move, Krim was reminded of the open area conquest. Time was short, and they needed to act quickly to participate. Before they could head out, a flashy stranger approached. Overhearing their guild talk, he offered to let them join his own, confident and smug. Krim recognized the man Elmir, an acquaintance from earlier. His sudden appearance stirred mixed reactions from the group. Memories of a past confrontation surfaced. Krim had declined his guild offer once, and defeated him in battle, leaving a strong impression. Online rumors had spread rapidly since then, painting her with a fierce, unexpected reputation across the message boards. Krim acknowledged the situation, but couldn't fully ignore the awkwardness surrounding her unintended reputation. Elmir, now desperate, lamented how rumors had spiraled out of control, turning him into a laughingstock online after their past clash. Suggesting a way forward, he proposed a casual match to clear the air. Krim, intrigued, quickly agreed. Despite her enthusiasm, uncertainty lingered. PvP was still new territory for her, and team combat was an even greater challenge. With all three gathered, she pushed aside hesitation and suggested their first team battle, energizing the group with determination and a mischievous glint. Inside the arena's waiting room, Freya reminded the group that teamwork would be the deciding factor in their upcoming 3-on-3 match. They had acquired many new abilities, but skill interference made coordination vital. Clear communication was essential for success. Krim proudly claimed she had mastered numerous spells, though her limited memory betrayed her. Friendly teasing followed, lightening the mood. To make the match worthwhile, they agreed to request help with guild funds regardless of the outcome as part of the deal. Though uncertain, Krim felt determined. For the first time, she would fight not just for herself, but alongside true companions. Excitement surged as Krim and her teammates raised their arms, fully ready to face their first team battle. In the fourth arena, an official match was about to begin. The automatic commentator, AI Chan, made her energetic appearance. Krim was stunned by the massive audience. Elmir confessed they had advertised, but the turnout had far exceeded expectations. To calm the crowd, the team staged a forced display of camaraderie. Their exaggerated gestures only made it more obvious. Despite the awkward start, no one blamed each other. They had all chosen this path together and were ready to move forward. Confidence surged as Krim's teammates discussed their battle strengths, though she quickly reminded them not to leave her out. Across the arena, their opponents analyzed the team's formation. Acknowledging Krim's strength, they planned to focus their strategy around restraining her. To keep it simple, the group devised a coordinated plan. Krim would lead the charge, supported by healing and interception from the rear. With both teams in formation, the match began. The crowd watched eagerly as the announcer recapped the rivalry between Krim and Elmir. Wasting no time, Krim dashed forward. It was her and Freya's first time fighting side by side, and tension filled the air. Charging in without hesitation, Krim targeted the enemy's head directly. Elmir stepped in, hoping to buy time for Freya to adjust. Their blades clashed mid-air. Despite Krim's aggressive swing, Elmir held firm, reacting with swift precision. Though Krim's attack missed, her opponent revealed that he had heavily invested in boosting his stats, giving him surprising agility for a tank. From the sidelines, Enemy spellcasters began chanting. The next phase of their strategy had begun. Lightning paralyzed Krim, followed by a binding wind spell. Trapped mid-fight, she realized the enemy was using coordinated restraining magic to shut her down. The team followed their strategy with Freya nervously casting a spell as planned. Krim stood immobilized, awaiting recovery. Confusion spread as the wrong magic was used, failing to remove Krim's status condition. Everyone froze in surprise. Krim remained. Trapped Freya, overwhelmed by nerves, apologized. Their opponent seized the chance, acknowledging the gap in their coordination. She was suddenly caught by a powerful restraining skill, rendering her unable to move. One of her teammates activated a crystal and ordered a healing spell to be cast. Desperate, they attempted to assist Krim before the enemy could strike again. Before the spell could be completed, an opponent fired a magic projectile at the caster, interrupting the process and halting the healing. Another enemy charged forward, calculating that Krim's position would block the wizard behind her from retaliating. With precise timing, Krim was launched into the air by an ally's spell. The attack disrupted the enemy's approach, revealing it was a strategic move to save her. With only 13 seconds left, Elmir received the signal to act. He sprinted toward the exact spot where Krim was expected to fall. Freya struggled to cast her healing spell as two enemies monitored her every move, blocking her timing and keeping pressure on her position. Despite the odds, Freya focused intently. Her opponents remained locked on her, revealing their strategy to prevent support magic. Lightning struck across the field as orders were given to suppress the healer. A clash erupted, forcing Freya's side into full defense. Krim plummeted helplessly toward the ground, calculating the danger. She realized if Elmir reached her mid-fall, defeat would be certain. Only 8 seconds remained before the restraints would vanish. Krim, still falling, was descending faster than the countdown could protect her. As the ground drew closer, the danger intensified. If the restraints weren't removed before impact, the battle would be lost. Elmir had already arrived at the landing zone, waiting with his sword ready. His interception was inevitable. Elsewhere, an ally noticed Krim's peril while preparing a counterattack. He was momentarily distracted by an incoming spell targeting his position. Just in time, the mage launched a quick cast aqua shot. The incoming flame arrow was intercepted midair, halting further damage. A massive burst of steam engulfed the arena, triggered by a sudden explosion. Confusion spread as visibility dropped on all sides. Freya's name was shouted through the fog. The dense mist blocked everyone's view, complicating the already chaotic situation. Freya finally responded, casting her healing spell in the midst of the confusion. Her focus held steady, despite the pressure. Meanwhile, Elmir spotted Krim midair. He charged with confidence, convinced her restrained state guaranteed his victory. But as he raised his guard, Krim struck first, delivering a powerful blow that broke through his stance and surprised him. As a mysterious glow split the air, a character from the stands reacted in awe. A rare skill was being activated for the first time. Spectators quickly recognized the move. Whispers spread Krim had just used a katana skill, something no one had expected. Curiosity surged. Another player examined the blade closely, confirming its identity. The rarity of the skill left them stunned. Announcers declared Krim as the first to obtain such power. Her surprise move drew everyone's attention across the arena. With perfect timing, she deflected Elmir's strike. Freya's support arrived just in time to secure their counterattack. Krim tightened her grip and prepared to strike. With confidence restored, she declared the true battle was only beginning. At the arena's upper level, two cloaked figures watched the match unfold. Their interest grew as the momentum shifted. One of them noted the unexpected teamwork on display. The group on the field had clearly caught their attention. Among them, the white-haired girl stood out. Her performance left a strong impression on the mysterious observer. With a calm expression, Krim activated a rare katana technique, stunning the arena. Her blade moved with practiced grace, and the aftermath of the skill lit up the screen behind her. Among the crowd, allies looked on with amazement. Their faces reflected admiration and disbelief as they processed what they had just witnessed. Roars of excitement exploded around her. Even the most hardened players couldn't contain their astonishment, shouting praises with wild enthusiasm. Caught off guard by the overwhelming praise, Krim's confident aura cracked slightly. One friend eagerly pointed out the beauty of the effects like falling cherry blossoms in battle. Another compared her to a lightsaber duelist, impressed by her elegant parry. Conversations shifted away from the battlefield as spectators became enamored by Krim's presence. Despite the katana being visible, its associated skills remained an enigma. Even seasoned players couldn't determine what combination of abilities she truly possessed, fueling curiosity and tension. Recognizing the unknown variables, the tank stepped forward to confront her. Krim, composed and focused, readied herself. A sudden spear thrust came at her with force. Yet she parried cleanly. Her defense extended beyond normal attacks. Battle skills were countered with the same precision. With her melee abilities confirmed, concern shifted to her potential with magic. The enemy launched a flame attack, testing her range defense. Krim's abilities stunned her opponents as she nullified a magical assault with ease. Observers quickly began analyzing her style, noting the repeated sheathing of her katana between techniques. With the next wave imminent, allies prepared for the worst. Krim remained alert, while support players stood ready to heal her at a moment's notice. Dodging blow after blow, she weaved between attacks and retaliated with swift slashes. Despite her agility, the pace began to show strain. Deflecting every strike demanded her full focus, preventing any chance to counter or advance. Their declaration to manage the pressure hinted at coordination beyond individual skill, reinforcing their trust in Krim's defense. Krim's opponent raised his weapon with confidence, preparing for a clash. Observers noticed Krim adjusting her stance, positioning herself at an unusual distance. She activated her ultimate technique, drawing her katana with purpose. The secret sword Kokono would decide everything in the next moment. Hovering above the arena, Krim stood triumphant as her team's victory was announced. From across the battlefield, a knight stared in disbelief. Though the distance between them was wide, she had taken a ready stance, confidently claiming she'd end it in under a minute. The knight's confusion grew as symbols ignited around her silhouette. The name Kokono surfaced in his mind like a warning. Her blade sliced through the space between them, striking with a force that echoed with the word, Rin. He barely had time to react. In a single motion, she had closed the gap, her eyes locked onto his as their weapons clashed in a blur of speed. The knight dug his heels into the ground, determined to withstand the next blow. Dust rose as he braced himself for impact. Despite his efforts, his stance faltered. A sudden force disrupted his balance, and panic flashed across his face. Realization struck he'd been caught in a spirit spell called Balance Break, cast with perfect timing. His footing lost, he became vulnerable. Seizing the opportunity, Krim dashed past him. Her focus shifted to the healer at the rear, eyes locked onto the next target. In a single motion, she slashed forward. Twin images of her attack collided into the stunned healer, tearing through his defense. The healer's body shattered into fragments, his form disintegrating in midair. A single name echoed MASH before silence fell. Cheers erupted as the announcer confirmed his elimination. The coordinated strike by Krim and Frey had removed a key support from the opposing team. One enemy tried to brace for the next blow, though escape was impossible at that distance. He prepared to shield his vital points. Several small projectiles pierced his gear. The effect was immediate. Acid piercer corroded his armor, weakening his defenses drastically. Krim closed in again, blade flashing. She struck vulnerable joints with ruthless precision, leaving the opponent overwhelmed by sheer force. Members of Elmir's team continued to fall one by one. The situation had turned dire at this rate. Even 30 seconds seemed generous. Spectators shouted in disbelief. Krim and Frey's coordination was near flawless, turning the match upside down in moments. In the center of the chaos, Krim stood poised. Her calm contrasted the devastation left in her wake, her presence now overwhelming. Eyes narrowed. She prepared her next technique. A blade drawn slowly, with quiet intent, glinted in the light. Elmir reacted just in time. As Krim unleashed her IA strike, his shield rose, narrowly blocking the deadly flash of steel. Krim unleashed a fierce overhead slash, her blade crashing against Elmir's raised shield. Sparks flew as power rippled through the strike. Though the blow connected cleanly, Elmir remained standing. A glance revealed the truth: it hadn't been fatal, despite landing at his neck. Thanks to the tank skill guts, Elmir had survived with a single point of health. Another ally stepped forward, determined not to let her wipe them all out. Shock filled Elmir's expression. His defenses had nearly failed. He realized just how close he'd come to being taken out instantly. As his foot surged forward, he roared his resolve. This is the end. The clash was far from over. Krim absorbed the incoming blow with a swift block, shards scattering from her guard. Her focus remained unshaken. Elmir reeled in shock. The tank skill air ride had just been activated, but not by a tank. It defied typical use. Earlier, strategy discussions highlighted Krim's attack chain Rin, Ma-Tou, and Sha. With her current mastery, 4 consecutive strikes were possible. Knowing the cooldown risk, her team prepared for backup. Freya, entrusted with her protection, vowed to hold the line if Krim faltered. With perfect timing, Freya struck. Her arrows flew with purpose, declaring she'd act when it mattered most with full faith in Krim. Elmir defeated. The announcer declared the match over. Krim's team had successfully eliminated all opponents from the battlefield. Freya stepped forward with a smile, revealing she delivered the final blow. The last enemy had only 1 horsepower remaining. Krim's team stood victorious as the arena erupted in cheers. The match had ended, and the results confirmed their flawless triumph. The highlight reel began, showcasing the most critical moments. On the screen, Krim flawlessly deflected a relentless barrage of attacks. Her precision and speed amazed spectators. From the waiting room, her allies watched with admiration. The crowd praised her grace and strength, while Elmir's effort was also acknowledged. Cheers for Krim continued as the broadcast displayed her dominance. She had earned admiration for both skill and charm later. A bold confession disrupted the moment. A masked player asked both Krim and Freya to date him. Shocked, the girls questioned his sanity. After the match, a commotion broke out as multiple teammates dragged a cloaked man away. He had attempted to date both girls at once, earning sharp scolding from the others. Krim opened her menu to find a flood of friend requests. Shocked by the attention, she couldn't even add more. Everyone had hit their friend limits. Freya quietly took control, deleting the requests one by one. With a sinister smile, she declared herself Krim's manager, denying others any access. Nearby, a warrior expressed regret. He'd hoped to recruit Krim but knew he'd lost his chance. Smiling with renewed determination, he vowed to defeat them in the next guild ranking battle. Krim and her team appeared puzzled by the announcement of a guild ranking battle. One teammate asked if it was different from the open area conquest, revealing their lack of familiarity. To clarify, a veteran explained that the event was seasonal, pitting various guilds against each other in a structured competition to determine standings. Ranking up offered unknown rewards, and while the rules were simple, the stakes felt high. Krim listened intently, eyes fixed on the leaderboard. The event would unfold as a large-scale battle royale, where only one team would remain victorious. Strategic ideas clashed. One member preferred stealth, another peace, while Krim's eyes sparkled at the thought of charging headfirst into chaos. While discussing the growing competition, players noted the influx of pro teams entering the game. Even veteran PvPers from other titles had begun migrating to the platform. The game had exploded in popularity. Streamers, voice actors, and cosplayers announced their participation, turning Destiny Unchained Online into a cultural phenomenon. Guilds specializing in large-scale GVG combat were already forming. The competitive scene was evolving rapidly. Krim listened in awe, surprised by the scale and depth of the guild landscape. Her curiosity about the top contenders grew stronger. One such force was the Black Wolf Squad, a beastman-only guild known for decisive, high-impact strikes. 2 elite guilds caught attention. Tukai Company, known for powerful gear and deep pockets, dominated with hired strength. Meanwhile, Lily Garden surprised many with noble heiresses showing unexpected might. Hearing about the lineup of extreme teams left Krim's group overwhelmed. The competitive pressure felt suffocating even before the battle began. Nord Glacier, led by Saul Lean, and Azure Dragon Tempest, led by Shao, carved paths of destruction, eliminating every area boss in their way. They were clear favorites to win. Krim's companions questioned their chances against such fearsome forces. Instead of worry, Krim admired their names, determined to create one even cooler for her own team. Over-the-top guild names rolled off the screen, each one bolder than the last. Some were poetic, others downright absurd, yet all carried a strange charm. Daydreams about naming were cut short by a nudge toward reality. No guild existed yet, and time wasn't waiting. Without hesitation, Elmir transferred the full guild creation fee. A soft beep confirmed the support, along with a warning registration had to happen soon. Relief softened her expression. Support like his meant more than words, and plans finally started taking shape. Silverwing's crew walked off with confidence, leaving behind one clear message: they were aiming for the top. Windom Central Park became the next rally point. Urgency weighed on the group. They still lacked 2 guild members, and the deadline crept closer. Discussion turned practical. Covering the rear had become too much for Krim alone, and they needed someone up front to share the pressure. Ideal candidates were imagined: tall, muscular, terrifyingly fierce. A fantasy warrior with both power and presence. Suddenly, someone matching the description appeared nearby, towering, silent, and intense. He met their gaze with a question mark on his face. Confusion followed. He wasn't acting like a player. Still, Something about him felt strangely familiar. As evening approached, teammates logged off one by one. Staying online served no purpose for now. Left behind on a quiet bench, Krim pondered her next move. 2 more guild members were still needed, and ideas were running dry. A soft yawn escaped. The game's sunny skies contrasted the late hour in the real world. Drowsiness started creeping in, just as her eyes closed. Someone's voice broke the silence. A cheerful girl with fox ears leaned over the bench, curious and smiling. With a confident grip on her staff, the stranger declared victory. She'd found exactly who she was looking for. 2 girls peeked over the bench, one of them declaring success. They had found the target they were waiting for. They approached Krim and guided her hands gently, placing them around the handle of a katana. Their actions were deliberate, as if triggering something specific. As they continued their movements, one girl whispered instructions while adjusting Krim's grip. Krim, caught off guard, drifted into unconsciousness. Suddenly, chains sprang out and bound Krim's body tightly. Her eyes snapped open in confusion. Still restrained, Krim questioned what had happened. One girl smirked, identifying herself as an NPC, and finalizing a hidden system update. One of the girls revealed a loophole. Hinagiku could gain katana skills by deleting and recreating her character. Before Krim could process the idea, she panicked, struggling under the sudden pressure of chains, and shouted objections. Overlapping voices argued about character data, skills, and intentions. Amid the chaos, someone pointed out Hinagiku had been caught. A screen from the game's forum confirmed suspicions. There was talk about a white-haired fairy NPC and hidden skills. Krim clarified the truth at last. That rumor was wrong. She wasn't an NPC, she was a player, standing her ground. She tried to reassure the girl, but noticed she had grown quiet. Hinagiku lowered her ears, apologizing for the confusion. To lighten the mood, Krim offered some food. Hinagiku accepted, and the two shared a meal on the bench. While watching her eat, Krim silently observed Hinagiku's small frame, questioning her age and how someone so young played the game. Breaking the silence, Krim asked about the katana. Hinagiku quickly explained she bought it from a nearby shop. Surprised, Krim wondered aloud about Windom's market. Although weapons were common, there still seemed to be something unusual about it. Krim gripped the katana but couldn't unsheath it. Without proper skills, the weapon locked itself, clearly a trap meant for beginners. Hinagiku's eyes sparkled as she recalled the moment she saw Krim fight. Inspired, she asked to be taken in as her disciple. Flustered, she quickly added a request for guidance, specifically how to unlock katana skills, though she tried to hide her true motive. They turned to a merchant for help, but he showed no favoritism, demanding payment regardless of her age or circumstances. Trying to hold back tears, Hinagiku presented her savings. Krim stepped in, joking lightly to ease the tension in the air. Krim listened as Hinagiku explained that the merchant intended to reveal information about katana skills while selling Kaime Pass swords. With a sly grin, the merchant admitted his plan. He had gathered materials and involved the Oni tribe to craft the weapons. However, the effort backfired. The NPC blacksmith unexpectedly refused to forge anything, triggering an unplanned in-game event. Seeing an opportunity, the merchant proposed a deal. If they helped resolve the situation, he'd waive the fee. Hinagiku volunteered without hesitation. Elsewhere, real-world scenes unfolded. Someone admired expensive bags, unaware of the brewing challenge on the virtual battlefield ahead. 2 girls called out to their friend, asking if she had made her decision. They had already chosen their own items. Still unsure, the girl hesitated. Her friends offered to help, teasing her for always being indecisive. Just then, a call came in from Ku. He asked for her help with something in duo. She agreed, and set the time and place. Later in-game, the location known as Kaime Pass came into view. She had arrived on her own. Amazed, she looked around. The area was calm, filled with Oni villagers going about their peaceful day. Krim called out cheerfully as 2 familiar players arrived at the village, waving in response to her greeting. They immediately recognized Hinagiku, the young girl Krim had mentioned earlier. One of them remarked on her surprisingly young age. Hinagiku greeted them with her usual energy, while Krim casually explained that she had ended up helping her with a few things. Still, one of the newcomers questioned the situation. Momentarily suspecting Krim's motives, she firmly denied anything inappropriate. When asked about Ryunosuke, Krim admitted they had spoken briefly. He had simply told her to handle things however she liked. Krim gathered the group and suggested they split up to investigate the event. Each person chose a different area to explore. Hinagiku eagerly offered to check out the food stalls. Krim, meanwhile, searched for someone named Ma-Tou. Eventually, Krim found her atop a ledge beneath the trees. The serene atmosphere made the place feel special. Ma-Tou recognized her quickly and was surprised by how soon Krim returned. Still, she welcomed her back without hesitation. After exchanging a few words, Krim explained the problem. She came on behalf of Ryunosuke, asking about the halted weapon production. Ma-Tou revealed the problem: the village couldn't forge katanas because they lacked a rare material called the steel of hatred. This steel, imbued with intense emotion, was necessary for creating demon swords. Ryunosuke had planned to commercialize them. Krim listened as Ma-Tou explained the mine's collapse. Rumors blamed monsters or an accident. Those who entered never returned. There was a darker suggestion they had failed to pray at the shrine, and were cursed as a result. Krim trembled at the word curse. Ma-Tou smirked, amused by her reaction, and casually assigned her the quest to investigate. Arrived at the foreboding entrance of Mount Rakume, a place wrapped in chains and heavy silence, where lost souls wandered. Despite her wide eyes and trembling hands, she insisted she wasn't afraid. Krim received guidance from a companion and set out toward her next objective without hesitation. Her destination was clear. Though she knew the coordinates, the mention of a sacred mountain unsettled her. She paused, chewing nervously on a snack. Arriving near Mount Rakume, she reviewed the map. The area was low threat, and mining was encouraged, though danger still lingered. At the foot of the mountain, the group gathered. An eerie chill filled the air. The place radiated an ominous aura. A masked Oni joined them, prepared to lead the way. Their mission: uncover the truth behind the disappearing Oni. Krim stood at the gate, unimpressed and ready to leave. Her companions, more eager, questioned her sudden decision. Hinagiku teased her gently, wondering if fear was the reason. Krim denied it, but her expression said otherwise. She explained she didn't fear horror, just hated being startled. Her reasoning was oddly specific and unconvincing. Suddenly, a silent, grotesque figure appeared ahead. Krim, despite her words, screamed and attacked in panic. Trying to comfort her, Krim offered Hinagiku her hand. The gesture surprised them both, briefly easing the tension. The Oni explained that the region was known for its unique ores, attracting miners from distant lands. According to legend, a meteorite once crashed here, violently reshaping the land and opening a path to strange materials. Though tragedy followed entire villages, destroyed the promise of rare resources, drew adventurers back over time. The mountain earned a grim reputation. Frequent accidents and deaths gave rise to whispers of vengeful spirits lurking beneath. From the cursed soil, a dark crystal formed steel, infused with centuries of hatred and unresolved malice. At the shrine's base, Krim was warned of mischievous spirits nearby, and darker ones, deeper within. A prayer was advised for protection. While her allies discussed strategy and enemy scaling, Krim had already wandered off. The shrine's presence unsettled her more than it reassured. Nearby, the others discovered Krim nervously, praying beside the Oni. Her unease was obvious, prompting light teasing from her friends. Soon after, the group arrived at a massive rocky basin under moonlight. It marked the entrance to the mine rumored to hold cursed steel. As the Oni readied his tools for excavation, he asked the others their plans. Krim hesitated, unsure whether to follow or stay back. The group confirmed it was safe to dig in the area. With no ownership claimed over the land, tools were generously offered. Rather than wait idly, they agreed to mine while keeping watch for any unusual occurrences. After all, someone had mysteriously vanished here before. With shouts of enthusiasm, the party grabbed their tools. They imagined a gold rush, determined to gather rare ore to improve their equipment. Krim led the charge, striking the earth with focused effort. Echoes of clanking metal filled the mining field. Eventually, she unearthed something unusual. Clutching the mysterious mineral in her hand, Krim examined it closely, unsure of what she'd just found. Excited cheers erupted as Krim and Hinagiku triumphantly held up the steel of hatred. Both had successfully struck the motherlode. While the group basked in their mining success, Krim wiped her brow, exhilarated by the hard work. Krim's attention drifted toward something unusual nearby. A faint shimmer caught her eye along the rocky slope. She approached a curious bag tucked between stones. Her companions identified it as a loot drop, likely from a fallen player. The system confirmed it. When players die, their collected resources become lootable. The bag's presence meant someone had perished, likely attacked by a ghost during mining. Hinagiku rushed over, calling the others with urgency. Krim debated whether to claim the loot, knowing the risks of looting others' drops. With wide eyes, Hinagiku revealed numerous ore bags scattered across the area. Krim hesitated, recalling someone she feared it might belong to. Upon arrival, the group stood frozen. The field was littered with loot bags, far too many to have come from a single player. Krim's expression hardened. The sheer quantity suggested an entire party had been wiped out. Possibly even more. Despite the carnage, no monsters were nearby. The eerie stillness left only one conclusion: something unseen had done this, and it might still be watching. Krim knelt beside a cluster of loot bags, and noticed crossbow bolts stuck in the ground. She questioned whether the game counted vanished players as dead. She studied the bolts more closely, puzzled by their angle. Something didn't feel right about how they were embedded. Looking up, she theorized the projectiles had rained down from the cliffs above. A surprise attack seemed likely. Nearby, her companion examined a few loot bags and made a troubling observation. None contained rare ore, only common materials. Realization struck. The rare resources had been deliberately stolen. Krim gasped, remembering she had left Freya alone in the danger zone. Hidden in the rocks, a cloaked figure readied a crossbow. Unaware, Freya hummed to herself while casually mining nearby. Krim sprinted toward her companion, shouting a warning. Freya, delighted by her mining success, turned with a cheerful smile. Before she could react, a bolt streaked through the air. Krim threw herself in front of Freya, deflecting the shot just in time. A group emerged atop the cliff under the moonlight. Their leader smirked, declaring ore too valuable to ignore, and demanded they surrender everything. The party quickly realized the truth: these were player killers, a coordinated squad of experienced assassins. This was no chance encounter, it was an ambush. Krim assessed the enemy formation. This wasn't just a random group of killers, they moved like a coordinated PK guild. As her group confronted them, the truth came out. The earlier loot field belonged to this very party, stolen from ambushed victims. The enemy leader smirked, unfazed. She claimed player killing was a valid tactic under game rules, a legitimate playstyle, not a crime. One of her allies pointed out that Krim's team had unknowingly brought a rare mob with them, justifying the ambush. Krim realized the mystery of the vanished players. The PK Guild exploited the rare enemy as bait to farm ore and victims. To everyone's shock, the party of player killers turned out to be the exact target listed in the subjugation quest Krim's group had accepted. Krim processed the situation. In many games, attacking NPCs triggered quests, but this group had somehow manipulated the system to become quest targets themselves. Rather than deny it, the PK Guild embraced their villainy. To them, being hunted only made the game more satisfying. Their leader explained the twisted brilliance behind their plan by being marked for subjugation. While waiting between ambushes, they relaxed and laughed. For them, this wasn't just a strategy, it was farming efficiency, weaponized through deception and bloodshed. Krim analyzed the situation and remained calm. Since the threat wasn't supernatural, she felt confident. Her group understood their enemies were skilled in PvP combat. With a fierce glare, Krim issued a bold challenge, provoking the PK leader's rage. Under the full moon, a group of cloaked hunters emerges from the shadows. Their leader, with a confident smile, declares the beginning of the hunt. Sensing the incoming threat, Krim and her companions prepare themselves. One of them urges the others to fall back, bracing for impact. As Krim locks eyes with the enemy, a strange sensation creeps over her. Confused by the cryptic attention, she tries to make sense of the unexpected words. Suddenly, chaos erupts. A fierce warrior crashes through their defenses, catching them off guard with a surprise ambush. Reacting swiftly, Krim leaps forward. Her fierce glare meets the attacker's, cutting through his mockery. The attacker's weapon slices through the air and lands a solid blow. Caught off guard, Hinagiku staggers backward from the force. Crashing to the ground, she scrambles to recover. The enemy mocks her fall while another teammate rushes to her side. Krim's sharp gaze surveys the battlefield. Realization dawns: this wasn't a random skirmish, but a coordinated trap from the start. Despite the pain, Hinagiku reassures the others she's unharmed. Her spirit remains steady, though the attack clearly rattled her. The grinning enemy retreats with feigned politeness, his tone laced with mockery. Krim watches, her grip tightening. Enemy retreats, heading straight for his allies. Krim's party quickly realizes he's not running, he's regrouping for a larger strike. Krim warns the team to stay alert. She senses more enemies may be hiding nearby, waiting to pounce again. From the shadows, a figure with a twisted smile emerges, conjuring a magic circle. Her taunt signals something far worse is coming. Without warning, hordes of high-level monsters flood the battlefield. The group finds themselves completely surrounded by summoned beasts. Amid laughter and mockery, the ambushers gloat. They never intended a fair fight, only total domination. With confident grins, two enemies step forward, ready to take over the next phase. They promise to handle things with enthusiasm. One of them preps a mechanical crossbow, loading it swiftly. He apologizes mockingly for what's coming next, an escalation in pace. A barrage of bolts rains down from the cliffs. Amid the chaos, one strike lands true, forcing the group into retreat. Krim shouts a desperate call for healing. She spots 3 crossbowmen above and realizes they're pinned and exposed. Freya responds at once, casting healing magic, despite the pressure. She stays focused, moving to aid the next wounded ally. A hulking enemy crashes through the wall, targeting Freya. His eyes lock onto the healer. Knowing her support is critical, without hesitation, he lunges forward, axe raised high. Freya reels back, startled by the sudden charge. Just in time, an ally intercepts the strike. Weapons clash violently as the battle intensifies around them. Krim rushes to protect the team, declaring no one can be lost. She confronts the enemy head-on, eyes burning with resolve. Meanwhile, Hinagiku struggles under pressure. Despite magical support, the front line is collapsing fast. With the front lines in disarray, one member volunteers to eliminate the crossbowmen, causing chaos from above. Just as they prepare to move, enemies close in. A thunder spell is cast to suppress the monsters circling them. Despite the effort, precise cover fire from the cliff disrupts the team's movements. An arrow lands, forcing them to react defensively. Their enemy coordination proves far better than expected. Confidence begins to waver under the relentless pressure. Meanwhile, the Oni remains untouched. As an NPC, the monsters ignore him, an unexpected advantage the team might be able to use. The halberd-wielding figure continues fighting undisturbed. Shock spreads as it is noticed, no monster is targeting him at all. A teammate speculates, could he be flagged as an NPC? Or is there a secret method to avoid monster aggression? But the theory crumbles. The man dodges a blast with precision. He is indeed a target, just highly aware and agile. Still, suspicion lingers. Is there some condition at play that sets him apart from the others? Suddenly, strange nails appear on a teammate. Even healing magic fails. A new and unknown status ailment has begun. Freya panics as the mysterious effect worsens. The strange nail embedded in her body grows more threatening with each passing. Second, Krim realizes the danger. A delayed skill could cause fatal damage if not cancelled quickly. Still, the enemy begins to flee, with no time to chase. Krim turns her focus to pushing forward. She rushes toward Freya's side through the enemy ranks. A ruthless group of players initiates a planned PK raid, aiming to slaughter others for rare item drops. Their leader coldly declares the outcome inevitable. The attackers strategically encircle their targets within a mountainous region, using cliffs and hordes of monsters to block all escape routes. From above, they observe as their prey is overwhelmed. Surrounded by steep cliffs and monsters, the trapped group faces impossible odds. Amid the chaos, Krim's team struggles. Freya is under attack, but the enemy swarm makes it impossible to identify the assailant. With a calm smile, Krim strikes decisively. Her spell lands true. As she confronts the enemy, she declares the battle over. As Hinagiku panics, the team realizes their master is too far to assist. They've only lasted this long due to Freya's recovery magic. A grim thought forms: if Freya collapses, the entire group's health will be drained until they fall one by one. Scanning the battlefield, a strange entity is spotted. Unlike the others, it isn't moving. Its eyes remain fixed on Freya, though motionless. It might be the true attacker, its gaze alone halting her recovery. With enemies crowding the path, desperation sets in. One final aqua shot is unleashed, but hope begins to fade. A confident sniper spots a lone target chanting and readies a headshot, seeing it as easy practice. Before she can fire, a dagger shatters her focus, slamming into her face and leaving her stunned. Disoriented, she scrambles to understand the attack's origin, but can't locate the assailant. A swift figure emerges, eliminating the sniper instantly. Shock spreads: someone unexpected has entered the fray. Confusion grows. The white-haired girl struck from an impossible distance, prompting enemies to question her allegiance and intent. One player notices something strange: Krim isn't being targeted by the monsters. The enemy leaders begin to suspect something is off. With the player killers distracted, Krim sets her focus on the threat looming over Freya, determined to act while she can. Warning call identifies the true attacker. Krim quickly locks onto the hovering entity threatening their healer. Without hesitation, she draws her weapon and takes aim, knowing the success of her shot is critical. The arrow flies. Krim charges in, deflecting multiple strikes mid-air as she closes in on her target. Krim cuts through enemies effortlessly, drawing attention with her katana. Some begin to recognize her as the player from recent forum buzz. Freya's allies finally question why Krim remains untouched. An explanation follows: she's under shrine protection, hidden from evil spirits. A prayer at a nearby shrine had granted her a divine buff. Krim had performed it at the start, unknowingly gaining immunity. The location is revealed as a mining area, making shrine buffs for peaceful gathering a logical feature. With the truth understood too late, Krim launches from above, blade aimed straight for the enemy's core. Krim closes in with a fierce strike, ending the threat. Her attack lands clean. This marks the end of the enemy's interference. The monster's core shatters. Panic spreads among the PKA group, but relief washes over Freya's allies. Krim arrived just in time. With danger momentarily halted, the group decides to retreat. The monsters lurking deeper in the mountain are too strong to face now. Enemies rush to intercept their escape, frustrated by the delay caused by Krim's intervention. Despite concerns about leaving her behind, her teammates trust Krim's speed and strength. She can handle herself without issue. Krim halts, sword drawn, instructing Freya to lead the others away. Her stance signals intent to hold the line alone. The enemy commander issues a command. Dozens of enemies descend, surrounding Krim. A final confrontation begins under her unwavering gaze. Krim stood alone in the battlefield, her presence mocked by enemies, who saw only a beginner in default gear. Unfazed by their condescension, Krim refused to back down. She rejected a false offer of forgiveness, her expression hardened by resolve. The enemy slowly drew their weapon, accepting the challenge. Though they pretended indifference, a hidden eagerness for battle flickered in their posture. In a sudden clash, blades collided. Krim met the enemy head-on, neither flinching nor falling. The air crackled with energy as battle commenced. Despite the enemy's taunts, Krim maintained her focus. Small and underestimated, she responded not with words, but with skill, swift, sharp, and deliberate. Krim analyzed her opponent's gear, noting how the red cloak drew too much attention. Despite the strikes, her opponent remained composed, irritated by Krim's silence. Suspicion grew. Krim hadn't revealed her full abilities yet, and the unease began to spread. Without hesitation, Krim launched into a spinning attack, the momentum slamming into her foe's guard. Each blow revealed the gap in strength. Her opponent struggled to grasp how much Krim had invested in raw power, disbelief flashing across her face. Krim moved with brutal rhythm, chaining strikes in rapid succession. Her relentless assault overwhelmed the opponent, leaving little room to counter or even recover. Doubt clawed at Krim's opponent as she tried to maintain distance. Krim's agility defied her appearance. Default gear shouldn't have allowed such precision, and panic set in quickly. Krim accelerated, dodging wide swings and pressing forward with sharp, clean strikes. Her movements flowed with purpose, forcing her opponent to retreat and break form under pressure. Desperation replaced arrogance, wide-eyed and breathless. The enemy stared at Krim as if seeing a completely different being, something far beyond expectation. Recognition began to surface. That stance, that rhythm, Krim's fighting style triggered a buried memory, one too dangerous to ignore. Wounded and cornered, the enemy faltered. Krim, unwavering, stood tall and silent, her presence alone enough to silence any final taunts. Krim assessed her opponent's skill and decided to retreat. She relied on Frey while preparing to regroup with her allies. The group runs in panic, debating whether to leave Krim behind. Doubt lingers, but urgency outweighs hesitation. They justify the choice. Krim is skilled in PvP and doesn't need to deal with the monsters flooding the area. Yet ahead lies even greater danger. Swarms of monsters block the path, and if they're caught, it'll be over. A dark spell explodes near them, forcing them to dodge. The enemy tightens the trap, leaving no room to escape. In desperation, one turns to Frey, hoping he has a plan. The situation grows dire as tension builds. Frey admits he has no plan, leaving the group frustrated as panic begins to take hold. While they press forward, Frey reveals he wears fake glasses solely to appear intelligent, sparking disbelief among his teammates. The situation devolves into a scuffle, with allies fighting over the glasses in a desperate attempt to claim leadership. Suddenly, a towering enemy charges after them, prompting a frantic retreat as the group scrambles for safety. From behind, a voice calls out defiantly. Krim returns, prepared to fight, refusing to abandon her friends to danger. Krim braces to defend as the enemy charges, but before the attack lands, Hinagiku intercepts, halting the blow with precision. A fierce clash erupts. Hinagiku and Krim move in unison, striking together with sharp timing that splits the enemy's advance. Their allies, shocked, watch Hinagiku land cleanly. She had parried a heavy weapon midair, earning sudden praise and surprise. Reflecting on her actions, the others realized she had instinctively countered a surprise attack, without hesitation or delay. Once thought inexperienced, Hinagiku's true skill becomes clear, calm and composed. She stands ready, her blade steady and eyes sharp. The group prepares for the next confrontation. With confidence in her abilities, Hinagiku is chosen to handle the masked pursuer. Without warning, a fast-moving projectile tears through the air. A mechanical enemy rushes from the front, adding pressure to the already tense situation. Both threats coordinate, forcing the group to split their attention. Dodging attacks, they realize the enemies are deliberately targeting their path. Rumbling rock interrupts the chaos. The cliff wall begins to break apart, crumbling rapidly under the impact of sustained attacks. Krim calls out just in time. She pulls Hinagiku to safety as the falling debris crashes behind them, narrowly avoiding disaster. Freya weighs the danger ahead. Sticking to the cliffs risks being surrounded, but hesitation could cost them more. Without delay, the Oni steps up as their front-line shield. His massive form offers cover, making him the perfect tank for the group's advance. With renewed momentum, they push through the monsters. Krim calls out instructions while Freya supports with healing from behind. Frustration builds on the enemy's side. The Oni's durability creates a near-impenetrable defense, allowing the group to stay hidden and mobile. Behind clenched teeth, their opponent curses the strategy. Teaming up with such a rare unit has tipped the odds heavily in Krim's favor. Oni pushes forward relentlessly. His power holds the front line, and doubts arise among enemies watching the momentum shift. With a final surge, the group clears a path. Their formation holds strong, inching ever closer to freedom. Cheers begin to rise as the exit nears. Krim and her allies rush toward the opening, sensing the end is in sight. Suddenly, one of the foes spots a lone figure below. Confused, they question where he's been this entire time. The realization hits. He had gone down the back route, silently corralling scattered monsters into one dense group, cutting off their retreat. A surprised ally acknowledges the unexpected contribution. The plan had worked, and the underestimated member proved his worth. With confidence rising, they predict the enemy will walk right into the monster trap. Everything seems to be falling into place. That hope is short-lived. A fresh wave of monsters approaches from the front, overwhelming their expectations once again. Hindagiku quickly grasps the situation. Their being flanked, a pincer maneuver threatens to close in from both sides. Krim steps forward with resolve, ready to lure enemies with her taunt skill. She offers herself up to protect the group, believing she's the weakest. Free lights up with sudden clarity, finally presenting a plan that might turn the tide. The group reacts with relief and disbelief. Krim praises him, while others joke about the fake glasses being truly useful. Meanwhile, enemies watch from above. They prepare to let the monsters do the work, aiming carefully for when the group halts. As night falls, Frey rallies the team with confidence. He begins explaining a new coordinated strategy under the moonlit sky. Smiling, Krim announces the operation will start with Freya. The group braces for a counterattack, this time on their terms. Frey assigns the bait role to Krim, leaving her stunned. Despite doubts, she's expected to draw the monsters alone. Krim stepped forward, her feet kicking up dust as she readied herself for a real tanking role in the party. Though nerves crept in, she pressed on with determination, trusting in her preparation. She recalled past failures, but now understood the mechanics and team plan more clearly. Despite outward confidence, panic flashed across her face. She forced a brave expression, trying to reassure the team that she could handle the threat bearing down on them. Signal was given, and the operation began. The party split into two groups, charging toward their targets with precision. The rogues questioned which formation was a diversion, unsure if Krim's chaotic display was genuine or a masterful decoy tactic. A scattered formation of players spread across the field, each group unsure of the enemy's next move. From a higher vantage, commands were issued. The strategy was clear: eliminate the group that first drew the monster's aggression. Magic flared as coordination began. A pack of beasts charged from the front. The players steadied themselves, bracing for impact as distance rapidly closed. Freya's squad moved in parallel. Though their exact position was uncertain, nearby allies kept an eye on their location, preparing to support as needed. Maintaining spacing was critical. One player adjusted her path, aware she couldn't remain too close to Frey, or risk disrupting the formation's balance. As the enemy forces rapidly approached, Krim positioned herself at a safe distance. She stayed alert, waiting for Frey's signal to act. Frey analyzed the battlefield, observing how the monsters would react. Her eyes focused, she prepared to unleash a countermove. Spotting the perfect moment, Frey raised her hand with determination. The signal was given, prompting immediate action. Charged forward, backed by Hinagiku, who guarded her flanks. Together, they moved in sync to break through enemy lines, activated her tank skill, Surging with power, she drew enemy aggression toward herself, establishing control over the battlefield. Krim's taunt took effect instantly, luring the attention of nearby monsters. A glowing barrier signaled their shifting focus as the trap unfolded. Frey and her allies noticed the sudden movement. Realizing Krim had drawn them all in, they prepared to act on the diversion. From their vantage point, the others launched their assault. Oni charged forward, while another player flanked from behind, seizing the distraction window. Doubt lingered as their spellcaster admitted the risk. Even so, the plan pushed forward. Driven by urgency rather than certainty, a powerful combo erupted. Wind magic and martial skill collided, striking the enemy with force. The creatures faltered, confused by the retaliation. A sudden eruption split the ground beneath their feet. Rock and soil blasted upward as the terrain violently collapsed. Caught in the shockwave, several fighters lost their footing. One girl screamed as the unstable surface gave way beneath her. Confusion spread as the ground fractured. The group realized too late that the bedrock, weakened and brittle, had become a deadly trap. Rocks poured down in a chaotic landslide. Some players scrambled to safety, while others disappeared beneath the debris. In the aftermath, survivors assessed the toll. Though many monsters were lost, uncertainty remained about their team's condition in the rubble. Frey looked on in disbelief. The opposing side had stooped to using their own allies as bait without hesitation or remorse. Confident in their assumptions, the enemy believed Krim and her companion had been eliminated in the collapse. To their surprise, both girls reappeared unharmed. Krim grinned, having escaped with the help of air ride, a skill used at the last moment. Realization struck hard. The enemy had underestimated them. What seemed like a fatal mistake had been a calculated escape plan. Now aware of the tactic, the enemy leader noted the maneuver's timing. Their retreat had been precisely at air ride's maximum range. Krim and her allies emerged from the dust cloud, landing safely. Their escape was swift like a theme park ride in motion. Laughter followed as they regrouped. The others admired Frey's creative use of air ride, a skill not usually meant for retreat. Capitalizing on the massive dust cloud caused by the landslide, the group used it to cover their escape and confuse any pursuers. Scanned the distant movement, sensing danger. Her instincts screamed a warning as she activated her interface with urgency. Recognition dawned. A familiar presence triggered memories, an opponent whose battle instincts rivaled her own. Krim stood under the moonlight, eyes locked ahead. A memory resurfaced. Her opponent wasn't new. They had fought before. Krim and her allies disappeared into the dense dust cloud, slipping out of sight as monsters and pursuers lost track of their movement. Panic spread among the pursuers. Krim's descent triggered confusion, and some argued over splitting up or regrouping. Amid the uncertainty, a knight calmly observed through enhanced vision. Despite the chaos, he could still track Krim's position with precision. Krim stood still, recalling her past encounters. The opponent's style felt familiar, like a memory from another game she once played. Facing a knight in red, Krim sensed a flicker of recognition, though she couldn't recall the details. The presence felt the same. The enemy panicked, trying to flee despite a severe injury. Krim advanced without hesitation, her presence closing the distance. Under the moonlight, Krim paused. She declared her intent to end the encounter swiftly, claiming no interest in cruelty. Wounded and trembling, the opponent threw away all pride and begged for mercy. The fight had clearly reached its conclusion. Krim listened, unimpressed. A player killer groveling for their life wasn't a common sight, and she found it oddly pathetic. Switching topics, Krim questioned the thief about stolen goods. Her smirk hinted she already knew the answer before it was spoken. What started as nervous laughter quickly turned to genuine amusement. Krim and her opponent shared a brief moment of levity, despite the tension. Without warning, Krim raised her blade again. Her tone shifted, cold and decisive, as she declared her intention to finish the job. Caught off guard, the wounded girl panicked. She scrambled for options, but could barely react in time to the sudden threat. A returning ally interrupted the scene. The injured girl tried to negotiate, offering a share of stolen goods in a desperate attempt to sway favor. Krim's suspicions deepened. She questioned the thief's authority over her team's resources, watching her confidence falter under the weight of her own lie. She teased her wounded opponent after exposing a lie, demanding to know why she wasn't offered everything. Her grin turned sharper with each word. Frustration boiled over as the enemy snapped. Channeling her anger into a desperate strike, she unleashed a battle art, more to buy time than to win. The technique wasn't meant to hit. It triggered a thick smokescreen, obscuring the area and cutting off visibility. Seizing the moment, the girl followed with a second attack. Blades of energy burst from the fog in a sudden barrage. Krim responded quickly, blocking the assault and pressing forward, Her opponent barely deflected in time, clearly overwhelmed, her blade cleaving down with force. The opponent barely raised her weapon in time, eyes wide with panic. Retreat seemed within reach as the injured girl scrambled toward an escape route, ignoring Krim's warnings. Hope flickered in her desperation. Out of nowhere, a familiar ally reappeared, charging into the fray. Krim's attention shifted, sensing a sudden change in momentum. The girl smirked triumphantly, thinking she had baited Krim into a fatal mistake. Her trap, however, came too late. Chaos erupted as both attackers collided. Krim struck decisively, turning their 2-against-1 plan into a brutal failure. Krim intercepted the enemy's strike with a well-placed kick, halting his battle art before it could activate. His confidence crumbled instantly. Without hesitation, she followed up with a decisive blow, knocking him back. Her taunt echoed timing mattered more than strength. Thou wounded, he wasn't finished. Krim's strike hadn't been deep enough. He grabbed her arm in desperation, trying to pull her down with him. Unfazed by the counter, Krim steadied herself. Her grip tightened as she pressed forward without hesitation. Something shifted, her eyes narrowed. Whatever was connecting them system, link. Krim knew she had to cut it now. Just as Krim moved to strike, a hidden party member revealed herself, her blade already plunged deep into the enemy's back. The surprise attack hit hard. Krim realized the poker had even turned her own party into a threat. With a twisted grin, the woman reveled in the moment. The violence thrilled her, and she wore madness like a crown. But the tables turned again. Krim's ally rose, unleashing a critical blow. His blade pierced through before she could gloat further. A final burst of force tore through the enemy. She fell at last, her smirk fading as the screen declared her destruction. Krim launched herself backward, avoiding the full brunt of the attack. Her speed stunned her enemies, buying her critical distance. Thou damaged. Her HP clung just above 0. The missed shot spared her from total defeat, and frustration grew on the enemy's face. Impressed but irritated, the opponent acknowledged Krim's persistence. Her tone shifted from mockery to grim resolve. Confident in her advantage, she pointed out Krim's near-empty health. The battle, in her eyes, was already won. Drawing her blade once more, she prepared to end it. No tricks, no surprises, just raw finishing force. Krim leapt back, but the enemy drew a pistol. With cold precision she aimed, declaring one shot would end everything. Under the pale moonlight, the two opponents faced off on a barren battlefield. One held the advantage, gun raised, taunting their foe who knelt wounded in the distance. Despite bloodied faces and worn expressions, neither side yielded. The vampire girl stared back coldly, unshaken by the threat before her. The fight's escalation, one lunged forward as the other pulled the trigger, only to hear an empty click. With the failed shot, the girl closed the distance. Her cloak whipped through the air as she launched a direct assault. Dashing unpredictably, she avoided retaliation. Her blade surged forward as the enemy realized too late that she had slipped past their aim. Krim unleashed a fierce blow, her form swift and precise. The enemy reeled, eyes wide in disbelief at her speed and timing. Desperation overtook her opponent. They raised their firearm, confident that one final shot would secure victory, despite Krim's agility. Yet again, Krim defied expectations. Her evasive maneuvers mirrored techniques seen only in advanced VRMO combat, moving unpredictably across the battlefield. Memories stirred. The opponent recognized the exact movement style from a past Siege event in a game called World Crisis, stunned by the similarity. In a distant past, a commanding figure had prepared defenses with confidence. Now facing Krim, that same experience offered no advantage. Within the fortress, soldiers guarded a massive crystal as a confident pirate girl argued the low threat level posed by their lower-ranked opponents. Suddenly, alarms echoed. The enemy breached the main gate, drawing surprised reactions from the once complacent defenders. Waves of intruders surged forward. Orders were issued swiftly as the captain assigned positions and prepared to counter the advancing team. Amid the chaos, a lone knight charged ahead recklessly. His bold advance was seen as foolish by those defending the stronghold. Without hesitation, the captain fired a clean shot. She mocked the knight's predictability as the bullet tore toward its mark. A bullet zipped past, yet the armored figure dodged cleanly. Spectators were stunned. Was he truly reacting mid-shot in a VR game? Onlookers from the battlefield recognized the maneuver. Among them, a rival acknowledged the uncanny reflexes of the warrior they called the headhunter. Rumors circled as some questioned his legitimacy. Yet veterans knew the truth. This was Krim, infamous for precision and evasion under fire. A tactician nearby explained the secret by provoking attacks. Krim could read intentions and respond before the bullet even fired. Through sniper scopes, it became clear. Predictable paths were easy targets. Krim, however, never moved the same way twice. The headhunter dashed forward with sharp, unpredictable steps. Observers noticed a pattern hidden within the chaos, subtle but deliberate. For a brief moment, Krim inserted a readable motion. It was a feint, just enough to bait a trigger-happy foe into taking the shot. Timing became his weapon. Anticipating the exact moment a shot would fire, Krim remained a step ahead of his attackers. He studied micro-movements, twitches in fingers, shifts in aim, and slight eye focus to dodge bullets with near-inhuman reflexes. Without conventional controllers, VR systems translated real hand motions, letting Krim use natural resistance and instinct to execute perfect evasion. Fingers tightened on triggers, the two marksmen aligned their shots. Each knew that success relied on deliberate and precise execution. Once a decision was made, hesitation became impossible. The act of firing could no longer be reversed, not even in VR. Even when the target vanished from view in an instant, the bullet would still be released, guided by reflex more than thought. Krim closed in, deflecting an incoming blade with a sharp burst of force. Her movement shattered the opponent's rhythm completely. As the fragments scattered, realization struck the enemy, memories returned, recognition flickered in their eyes. Krim was someone from the past. Krim stood tall, her cloak fluttering in the wind as an enemy shouted her feared title, the head-hunting Red Knight. She corrected them casually, insisting on the proper title, the Crimson Knight. Her expression, however, betrayed her attachment to the name. Her opponent panicked, recognizing her identity. Thoughts spiraled. If her true gender or real-world identity got exposed, trouble would follow. Rumors swirled among players. With crossplay being rare in VR, suspicion and curiosity stirred, adding tension to Krim's already complex situation. She smiled awkwardly, offering a compromise. If her identity remained secret, she'd show mercy. Beneath the humor, her request was sincere. Still holding her weapon, Krim declared she had no intention of letting her opponent walk free. Her tone was final. The defeated fighter tried to pivot the conversation, nervously joking about their allies' strength and the threat of being left behind. They offered to help, trying to justify escape, but Krim remained focused, unmoved by the flattery or concern. Standing under the moonlight, she corrected him. Krim wasn't just a carry, and her team wasn't weak. They were more than underestimated players. With a faint smile, she extended a suggestion. Perhaps they could spend just a bit more time together after all. Krim approached as her opponent panicked, calling out for help that never came. The distance between them closed steadily. A dark shape crept across the ground. Before the downed fighter could react, the shadow beneath them twisted and locked them in place. Unable to move, they realized too late they'd been caught by a spell. Krim calmly confirmed its shadow bind, cast from her own silhouette. Suddenly, another figure appeared beneath the moon. A hooded swordsman stood atop the cliff, watching with eerie silence. Krim's eyes narrowed, tension rose. She demanded answers. Was this figure backup, or a new threat altogether? A fiery figure landed atop the cliff, its radiant wings casting sharp shadows across the barren landscape beneath the glowing moon. Krim stepped back, unsettled by the surge of energy. She couldn't tell if the presence was spectral or another powerful player entering the field. Recognition hit her as the figure approached. This was no ordinary opponent. Her eyes locked onto him, her expression tensing. Known across the servers as the strongest in the meta, the Guildmaster of Nord Glacier had unexpectedly appeared before her. Sensing a chance, Krim plotted quickly. If she could provoke a clash with the headhunter, victory was assured. Krim clenched her jaw, unwilling to admit it, but the headhunter's strength was undeniable. Yet, her experience told her something greater loomed. She remembered the clash vividly. The cloaked man's precision and force operated on a level the headhunter could never match. Determined, she accepted the cost, even if death awaited her. She was resolved to drag her opponent down with her. Turning toward the cliff, Krim raised her voice, provoking the figure above to descend and join the fray. Watching the man take flight, the enemy realized too late, Krim wasn't alone, and reinforcements had already arrived. From above, the cloaked man descended with alarming speed. Krim braced herself, sword ready, heart pounding. His landing shattered the ground between them, sending a shockwave through the battlefield. Krim's eyes widened in disbelief at the sheer force. Chunks of earth gave way beneath the enemy, catching her off guard as the terrain collapsed into chaos. As dust cleared, Krim spotted a tunnel below. It wasn't just destruction, an underground path had been exposed. Puzzled, she questioned whether the impact was intentional. The man's weight alone had revealed an escape route beneath their feet. Krim assessed the crater below. her health nearly depleted. A direct confrontation now could end her immediately. She weighed her options, eyeing the lingering dust. If timed right, she might use the cloud as cover to slip inside. A surge of urgency overtook her. There was no time to hesitate. The situation demanded speed over caution. Landing softly in the tunnel, she advanced while remaining alert. Traps or ambushes could lurk in the shadows. When a stranger addressed her, Krim stayed guarded. She didn't trust him, especially not while wounded and surrounded by uncertainty. Within the tunnel, laughter echoed, as the cloaked man expressed relief, surprised to have survived. Krim watched cautiously from behind. A minecart carrying their former enemy sped off. Mocking parting words were thrown back at them, taunting Krim as the cart vanished into the dark. Turning to the cloaked figure, Krim demanded answers. Calmly, he revealed his name, Saul Lean, and his position as guildmaster of Nord Glacier. Recognition flashed in her eyes. That guild topped the rankings, known for unmatched coordination and power. Saul explained his presence drawn by rumors of player killers. He hadn't expected to meet someone who'd truly caught his attention. Launched forward without hesitation, initiating a sudden death match. Krim flinched, caught off guard by his speed and intent as he offered her a choice. Turning back with confidence, he awaited her decision, intrigued by her spirit. Krim and her group returned to the familiar shrine where she had once offered a prayer. One of the party members clarified their intent. This wasn't a random visit. They had come deliberately to obtain a shrine buff, a powerful effect that would help them avoid monsters. Standing near the offering box, they discussed how such mechanics were often overlooked in games. The group joined in prayer, each member hoping for different outcomes. Some wished for safety, others for loot won, even for their enemies' destruction. Elsewhere, another group closed in on the shrine. Frustrated and impatient, they demanded answers, believing their targets, Krim's party, were already there. Before Krim's group could finish praying, enemy voices echoed nearby. The tension rose as they realized pursuit was closing in fast. Inside, they were met with an eerie atmosphere. Strange objects filled the room, and the air felt heavy. Someone muttered that the place might actually be cursed. Whispers and confusion followed. Krim's team debated whether they had activated a buff or a debuff. One found a peculiar item while others struggled to stay quiet. Peering through the window, they tried to confirm the threat. Each member anxiously awaited the answer. Beyond the trees, a group of 3 enemy players approached, one leading a horde of monsters. With the door secured, Krim's group huddled behind the wooden slats, hoping the enemy would pass by. One tried to stay optimistic while the others worried if hiding would work. Caution took hold as movement was heard nearby. The group crouched low, treating the situation like a stealth mission, attempting to stay completely silent. Meanwhile, the enemy party arrived at the shrine, finding no trace of Krim's team. They assumed the group had already fled further away. Suspicious, they redirected their search toward a nearby shed, dismissing the shrine as empty. Peeking through gaps in the wood, they found nothing inside. Attempts to open the door failed. It was locked from within. From outside the shrine, the enemy scouts confirmed nothing was visible. They decided to search around the back, unaware of the hidden figures just behind the door. One of Krim's allies relaxed, believing the danger had passed, but doubt flickered in another's eyes. Suspicion rose when a faint glow emerged near the doorframe. A closer inspection revealed something unusual had been triggered. A masked enemy analyzed the surface and confirmed it. Residual heat signatures indicated someone had touched the door recently. Krim's group had been discovered. Panic broke out inside. The team realized their location had been exposed using infrared light, forcing them to retreat from the entrance. The enemy revealed the truth. Their gnome ally possessed infrared vision, capable of seeing residual heat left by anything touched. Tension escalated as the attackers pounded on the door. Confident in their advantage, they demanded the group surrender, mocking the shrine's flimsy protection. Inside, panic spread. Krim's party feared the horde waiting outside would storm in if the door gave way. They began to speculate about the room itself. Perhaps it was enveloped in a sacred element field, making it stronger than it appeared. In this world, shrines could possess elemental properties, just like churches weaken demons. This one might repel evil or nullify attacks due to its elemental alignment. Krim's team weighed their chances. If the monsters broke through, the shrine's sacred field might weaken them. Frustration boiled over. Krim and her ally unleashed a barrage of insults, calling out the attackers' cowardice and reliance on mobs, daring them to face real combat. Tension exploded as determination surged. One vowed to make the enemy cry, while the others demanded action, their nerves fraying. But something snapped. Hinagiku's sudden shift caught everyone off guard. Her calm demeanor vanished as she muttered dark thoughts, eyes empty. Years of suppression unraveled, whispering to herself. Hinagiku recalled every moment she endured silently, until now. One of Krim's allies recalled her childhood, where even in games, she was targeted with hate messages. Those moments left a lasting impact. She remembered, sitting alone, holding her console tightly, while reading cruel texts on the screen enough to make anyone quit. Hinagiku had probably felt the same. Though she stayed silent, fear and pressure had worn her down slowly. If she disconnected now, she might never return. The emotional weight could be enough to drive her away for good. They resolved to protect her. Letting Hinagiku escape was the least they could do. She deserved a safer place to play. Hinagiku remembered a time when she had friends in another game. They were driven away by older players who hunted them down, forcing them to quit. Her companion reflected on her own aggressive reaction. Recalling her mother's advice, never hesitate against player killers. That advice echoed fiercely, show no mercy to PKS. The words stunned Hinagiku, their intensity lingering in her thoughts. Despite the danger, her resolve solidified. She had always held back, but deep inside, she desperately wanted to fight back even if it cost her. Others watched, stunned. The door trembled, but Hinagiku stood firm. Her fear had vanished, replaced by a sharp inherited fury. With hope fading, one teammate proposed using the shrine's sacred power to wipe out the enemies. Another corrected her, that's not how elemental fields function. The discussion shifted to abilities. If Hinagiku's sacred skill was active, could it help? But confusion arose, was she even a beastman? Everyone froze. The revelation landed: Hinagiku wasn't a beastman at all, despite her appearance. Outside, the enemy gloated. The door had weakened, and their attack was moments from breaking through. With a thunderous crash, the shrine's entrance exploded. The enemy burst in, flames and debris scattering in all directions. The enemy's axe shattered part of the door, but something struck back before they could react. Their guard dropped for a moment too long. Hinagiku burst through the remains, cloaked in energy, charging straight at them with deadly resolve, aiming to strike down all three intruders. Krim stood engulfed in ethereal flames, vowing to offer her enemies' heads to the shrine. Her body burned with power as she prepared for a brutal strike. Elsewhere, enemy scouts noticed the strange flames and recognized the rest of her team hadn't left yet. The flames weren't visual effects. Krim was literally on fire. Her body endured recoil damage, but the burning state seemed to be granting her immense strength. Confused, her foes debated whether Krim was bait or had simply charged ahead recklessly. Warnings were shouted, but miscommunication spread. Krim's intent remained clear: destroy them all. A heated exchange erupted as confusion spread among the group. One member insisted something was visible, while others saw nothing. Suddenly, a cloaked figure emerged, commanding attention and elemental power. His voice cut through the chaos, demanding the shutdown of heat vision. Another ally stepped forward, revealing the truth. The enemy had missed the hidden trap by focusing solely on thermal signatures, and oversight now costing them. An eruption followed. The ambushed opponent realized too late that his own tactics had been turned against him. Observing the chaos, Krim struggled to strategize. Pressure mounted, but she forced herself to stay grounded. Despite the earlier chaos, one enemy refocused with determination, insisting Krim must be eliminated through coordinated, targeted strikes. His attempt ended abruptly. Krim launched a devastating blow, shattering his defenses and eliminating him with searing precision. The others reassessed quickly, believing she couldn't survive the monster aggression alone. They chose to let her exhaust herself under the swarm. Meanwhile, attention turned to a new threat, an Oni warrior, wielding a different weapon. His sudden presence shifted priorities. Sensing an opening, the player killers began to retreat. Krim immediately gave chase, unwilling to let them escape unpunished. Krim stood before a horde, eyes locked on the tightly grouped monsters closing in under moonlight. The battlefield had shifted in her favor. Allies quickly broke down the enemy's plan. The Oni had baited the killers, Hinagiku had drawn the mobs, and now they were controlling the chaos. Elsewhere, it became clear that Hinagiku belonged to a rare beastman race, the silver fox, with traits far beyond the norm. Her devastating azure flame skill once led to death upon activation, draining her HP entirely on first use. Now, with it active again, she endured continuous recoil damage, trading life for unmatched power. With sacred and flame elements now fused into her form, Hinagiku's strikes gained additional buffs, especially effective against demons. Surging with energy, she tore through the battlefield. Her aura blazed wildly, leaving enemies unable to mount a proper defense. Unleashing her finisher, she soared above the chaos and executed the Divine Inferno Vortex Slash, annihilating her foes in a sweeping blast. Victory came swiftly. The group celebrated as the final blow fell, eager to claim their spoils from the defeated killers. Later, teammates reflected on Hinagiku's strength. Her power came with risk few, could survive wielding it without constant support. The group wandered the quiet terrain, calling out for Krim, convinced she'd be fine despite the separation. Search efforts revealed nothing, no sign of Krim, no trace of the player killers. Questions arose about where the tide of battle had taken them. Panic flickered. The possibility of Krim being kidnapped took hold, and expressions grew grim. Reality confirmed their fears. Krim, tied up and used as a hostage, pleaded for release, her pride clearly crushed. Enraged, her allies discovered a tunnel beneath them. Their determination sharpened. Krim would be rescued without mercy for her captors. A large chasm opened, where the ground had once been stable. The group stood puzzled. This hole hadn't been there before. Suddenly, Hinagiku's sharp senses detected Krim's scent rising from within. Alarmed yet resolute, they prepared to descend despite the unknown. Upon reaching the cavern below, they called out for Krim. The silence and eerie setting unsettled them, but they pressed forward. Deep cracks and slashes along the walls revealed intense combat. It was clear a fierce fight had erupted in the depths. Finally, they spotted Krim's figure. The battlefield suggested a brutal clash, possibly with someone wielding overwhelming force. Krim lay wounded, relieved her allies survived. Her calm expression concealed defeat, a silent admission of her loss below ground. She stood beneath the hanging lanterns, her focus narrowed. The tension in the air sharpened as her fingers tightened around the hilt of her weapon. The battle parameters were set. One strike would decide the outcome. Krim and her opponent, Saul Lean, both had minimal HP. Their weapons clashed violently, shockwaves bursting from the impact. Saul's power-focused swing came with overwhelming weight, yet no gaps emerged in his technique. Saul advanced aggressively, unafraid of the duel's stakes. His confident grin betrayed his mindset. Victory belonged to those willing to take risks. He launched a massive spear attack, using his range advantage. The sheer distance covered by the strike left Krim cornered. Krim realized the reason behind her opponent's flawless guard. The sheer force of his wide swing covered every gap, denying her any chance to strike back. She noticed how early he initiated his movements. Compared to her, his attacks were already underway by the time she reacted. His tall frame and long weapon allowed him to dominate the mid-range zone. Each swing, though slow, compensated with reach and overwhelming presence. As his assault continued, Krim was forced on the defensive. There was no pause, only pressure. The ground split under the force. His attacks combined weight and range, delivering unmatched destructive momentum. Krim was launched into the air, her body skimming rock with force. Saul had committed to the strike, but it left him vulnerable. Mid-motion, without hesitation, Krim dove. Her blade collided with his defense, the impact creating a violent burst of energy across the battlefield. Surprised by her resilience, Saul acknowledged her strength. Krim had managed this without skill assists. Pure instinct and precision carried her. She shifted her stance, drawing a second weapon. Facing a dual-wielding opponent using only one sword felt wrong to her. To win, Krim knew she had to close the gap. She resolved to erase every advantage Saul held by taking the fight up close and personal. Krim launched into a rapid sequence of close-range slashes. Her dual blades danced, overwhelming Saul Lean with speed from multiple angles, closing the distance further. She challenged his mid-range focus. Her strikes aimed high, exploiting his limited vertical defense. A break appeared. Saul's weapon struck the ground. Krim saw it instantly. Her instincts surged. This was the moment to finish it. As she rushed forward, her eyes locked on the weakened stance. The shattered minecart rails beneath them opened an opportunity. With one decisive blow, Krim shattered through his guard mid-air. The duel reached its turning point in a burst of destruction. Krim lay on the ground, bruised and breathless. Her HP was nearly gone. Saul approached slowly, his stance relaxed after the clash. He raised a hand but withheld the final blow. Despite his win, he chose restraint. The duel was over. Krim acknowledged his decision. It had been a sudden death match, and he struck first. She accepted the outcome. They both admitted holding back. Neither had revealed their true strength, nor used their best gear or trump cards. As she turned to leave, Krim promised herself next time she wouldn't lose. With the duel concluded, Krim vowed to become even stronger. Her eyes held firm resolve, challenging Saul to do the same before their next meeting. As he disappeared into the cave's darkness, they both agreed to clash again next time at full strength, under ideal conditions. Krim stood alone in the aftermath, declaring he should use everything he had when that moment arrived. Elsewhere, Saul reunited with his guild. His rare defeat surprised his companions, but he accepted it with a calm smile. Later, Krim turned to her teammate, quietly asking how their mission had gone. The next phase was already beginning. The group exchanged casual words after battle. Though there was little loot, the relief of surviving was enough. Tension eased as laughter returned. Suddenly, all eyes turned toward a strange presence. Krim froze, sensing something unexpected behind her. She looked down in disbelief, realization dawning too late. Something had gone wrong beneath their notice.